Check, 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 check. All right.
Thanks, Josiah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Deshka Landing. Before I introduce everybody, I love this tune. Iditarod Trail, great song. Bruce Lee, and this is Liz Raines. For those that live in Alaska, you remember her, a former anchor reporter for KTVA, and recently married Matthew Failer, one of the great mushers that'll be out on this trail. So she is now part of our crew. We're excited to have her. And Liz is going to be with the middle and the back of the pack for most of the race, just out there to do live interviews and to do some other interviews for us. So Liz, first of all, welcome.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. The last time I was here was in 2018, and that's actually the year that I met my husband, Matthew. And I feel like I know a lot more, definitely, about dog mushing now than I did back then.
Yeah, you guys obviously have your own kennel now, and how many dogs, and what's life like for you? It's changed a lot.
Oh, my life has done a 180 since the last time I was on the Iditarod Trail. I'm now a mom to 53 dogs, and we have a lot of fun with them. I'm really excited to see how the ones that we have out on the trail will do this time around. And you know, it's funny because I didn't even have one dog when I met Matthew, didn't know if I was a dog person. And now I tell everybody I see a direct correlation between my happiness and the number of dogs that are around me at any given time.
That's good. Now, Liz will be joining Bruce and I in Finger Lake tonight, so you'll see her out there right away. And then Monday morning, we'll be flying her with Rainey Pastor to get her hooked up with her crew there, and she'll spend the day or two at Rainey. Okay, Bruce, you were just down talking to a lot of mushers. What do we need to know? You hear anything good?
All the mushers are pretty much, they just want to get on the trail, take it a mile at a time. There were a few rookies that are a little nervous. Brenda Mackey said she was so nervous. And I said, well, you've done a 1,000-mile race before. And she said, yeah, and a lot of middle distance ones, but I'm always nervous. So, but most of them are just sorting through their final gear, double checking everything. Talked to Brent Sass, very relaxed. Martin Boozer, talked to him, very relaxed. They just want to get on the trail and then take it a mile at a time.
Now, it was 7 below zero when we arrived here at Deshka Landing this morning, and that sun is up. You can really feel the heat. It's going to get warm. The teams will leave here at 2 o'clock, so they'll run through a couple of hours of heat. But does that change anything? Will we see somebody shut it down and get out here a while and then just shut it down and then run when it cools off?
No, I don't think so, because one, they're just starting the race and the dogs would be amped up anyway, so it's wasted energy. What you want to do is just get them settled into a rhythm where they're not getting overly excited. And you know, Greg, you've heard mushers talk about these are veteran dogs and why that's important. And it's not just that they know the trail, but they know how to regulate their, like any good athlete, their metabolisms. And then here in Alaska right now, they're going to start at 2, but we're going to be done about 4, and that's about when it starts cooling off here in the Matsu Valley right now. So it'll be an hour or so of heat, but then just immediately the sun's going to get down, cooler temperatures, and I think we're going to go right back into that about 5 to 10 below, which is perfect.
Yeah. And I know we have fans watching on Facebook Live right now, this little live shot that we're doing. For those of you that are there who have not purchased your insider subscriptions, first of all, thank you for being a fan of the race. But remember, every penny that you're able to donate and to subscribe with goes towards the future of this event, down to the most simple things like moving straw out on the trail and making sure that the veterinarians are out there and all the race support gets out there. It is not money that goes into some coffer that somebody's getting rich on. Your money, every penny of it, goes into ensuring the future of the Iditarod Trail sled dog race, and those pennies, nickels, quarters, dimes, dollars, $100 bills are more important than ever right now. So we appreciate those who have helped out, who have become part of the team, and we can't wait to get more of you involved. So we're going to take a time out. The live stream will continue here from Deshka Landing. Bruce and I will be headed over to our live chairs pretty soon at 1:30, where we will begin the actual live broadcast of this the start here in Willow, or at Deshka Landing. We welcome Liz Raines to the team. We can't wait to get her out there on the trail and get some of those fantastic interviews to you and more coverage from the middle and the back of the pack. So for now, that'll do it for the 3 of us here at Deshka Landing. Enjoy the afternoon. Get over to Iditarod.com. Enjoy all of those interviews. There's, I think, nearly 25 different interviews up now from the mushers that are here. So we've only got 46 in the event. So we're over half of them already up. You can hear their thoughts this morning and into the afternoon. Have a great day, ladies and gentlemen.
Cancer survivor, Iron Woman, marathoner. Veteran reporter Dee Jonrow isn't running the Iditarod. She's covering it for Alaska's news source. Dispatches from the Trail with Dee Jonrow is sponsored in part by Northern Edge Physical Therapy, Alaska's leader in healing and recovery.
An epidemic of diphtheria is almost inevitable here. Stop. I am in urgent need of 1 million units of diphtheria antitoxin. Stop. Mail is only form of transportation. Stop.
Almost 100 years ago, a group of 20 brave mushers and nearly 150 dogs carried life-saving medication across Alaska. A relay over 675 miles, just under 5.5 days, battling temperatures nearly 60 below, wind chills to -80. Arriving in Nome, not a vial broken, to save the lives of thousands. We pay tribute to their legacy every year by hitting the trail. But in 2021, the emotions may be a little stronger, a little sharper in this time of our own pandemic. The Iditarod will look and feel different this year. A shorter trail, fewer fans, deeper isolation. But like every year, the dogs will run and the mushers won't sleep much. And in a little more than a week, the 49th state will crown a new champion of Iditarod 49.
Welcome to our coverage of Iditarod 49. I'm Patrick Enslow, joined alongside Greg Heister and Iditarod musher Bruce Lee. Guys, I'm excited. We've been talking about it all week, but I'm ready for things to get underway. I don't know about you, Greg.
Man, you know, it just seems like this has been building now for months. Would there be a race? Would there not be a race? Races being canceled all over the globe, but not the Iditarod, proving that they can get it together, get it done safely, and get these dog teams out on a trail where they belong.
Yeah, and it's a different look. No fans here, and but we got plenty of dogs back there. I know, Bruce, you said you were back there, and you said they're barking.
There's lots of sled dogs back there, and the one thing I heard from every musher is they are just so grateful that the Iditarod crew pulled this off, that they could actually have a race. And of course, most of the time they're going to be out there alone. It was just the organization dealing with COVID to make this start happen, and they did it. And it will finish right here as well.
And if this year's definitely going to be different, if you can tell by our masks already. Now, Mike Ross checked out the connection between Alaska history, pandemics, and the last great race.
Start your sled dogs.
The teams didn't run down 4th Avenue this year. Another side effect of the pandemic, and a reminder that Alaskans have seen this kind of health threat before. 1918, Alaskans put on masks to try to protect themselves from the deadly Spanish flu pandemic.
I think the area of Nome was hit the hardest in 1918. And then there was a second wave that came in the spring of 1919, and that hit the Bristol Bay area.
1,100 people in Alaska died. Children became orphans.
There were these horrific stories of entire villages that would get wiped out. And by wiped out, meaning 80% of the people would be killed. Or trappers would come across individual villages where everyone had been killed, and there were simply wild dogs that were left.
Just 7 years later, January 1925, a deadly diphtheria outbreak hits Nome. Life-saving medicine is rushed to the town by mushers and their dog teams. Through rugged terrain and blinding blizzards, it went down in history as the Serum Run. Fast forward to 1973.
I told them, well, I said, I want to see it be a $25,000 race, and they like to all drop dead.
Joe Reddington spearheads the creation of the Iditarod Trail Sled Dog Race.
There's no more Alaskan sport.
John Norman was there back then, serving as the attorney for the new race.
We need to remember back and know our history, and part of our history is associated with the northern dog.
John says Reddington had two main motivations: preserve the Alaska tradition of dog mushing.
He noticed gradually that as the snow machines came into Alaska, the dogs began to disappear. and he lamented that.
And Joe Reddington wanted protection for the historic Iditarod Trail, which includes part of the route for the Serum Run.
It's valid to say that there is a long connection between the Serum Run, but that was not the initial motivator that drove Joe Reddington.
But even so, people who support the Iditarod feel there's a strong emotional connection between the modern-day race, the Serum Run of 1925, and what Alaskans are going through now with this pandemic.
When I have taught about the history of mushing, about the Serum Run, about Iditarod previously, before 2020, my kids really had a hard time understanding, what it meant to quarantine.
Jim DePrez is this year's Iditarod Teacher on the Trail. He's educating young people about the race and Alaska history.
There is that parallel that can be made as well, between, the urgency of getting the medicine to Nome to help stop the diphtheria outbreak to today, trying to get as many people vaccinated against COVID as possible.
Alaskans' determination to overcome the odds is the common thread.
We will get through this the same way those early people got through this, and the same way they got through the 1918 influenza epidemic. We'll come through this, and that's the history of the North. We're self-reliant.
Self-reliance embodied by the Serum Run mushers of almost a century ago and the Iditarod mushers of today. I'm Mike Ross, Alaska's news source.
Now, the Iditarod takes COVID very seriously. And we're going to go out to one of our trail crew, Sean McGuire, and he is standing by with the race's epidemiologist.
Hello, everyone across Alaska and across the world. My name is Sean McGuire. Behind me, there are 46 teams and around 650 dogs getting ready for an epic journey across Alaska. Now, joining me today is Dr. Jody Guest. She's an epidemiologist who's been working to make sure that everything is safe for the mushers and for the communities they visit. Now, Dr. Guest, can you tell us some of the precautions that are in place to keep everyone safe this year?
Sure. So our goal is to make sure that no one goes out on the trail with any COVID-19. And so we've been testing everyone for the past 14 days. Every single person who goes on the trail will have had at least 3 negative tests, so they don't get to go on the trail this year. That's one of our primary things. It's also mandatory masking. We are also distancing from all the communities, and we reduce the number of people that we have on the trail as well. So.
Okay, and can you just explain, I understand that they're not really visiting a lot of the big communities that they'd see across rural Alaska. It's kind of just McGrath. Could you explain the ways that you're trying to keep COVID out of the community? Is that one of the major ways?
It is. It was really important for us that we honored all of the communities that we would go to, and we wanted to make sure that they were comfortable with us being there. We also wanted to make sure we were really good citizens while we're there. So we are going to be separated from all of the villages. They can come out and watch. We hope they do up on the hills, but we are keeping our volunteers and our mushers separated from all the communities this year.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Dr. Guest. Thanks very much for joining us. And as you see, it's going to be a very different year this year. They're not going to be heading to Nome. They're going to be heading to the ghost town of Iditarod, turning around and then coming back across the trail they've just headed out on, and then across the Alaska range and back to where we're standing in Deshka Landing. It's going to be a very different Iditarod, definitely one you're going to want to watch. Back to you, Patrick.
Appreciate it. You're going to want to stick with our coverage as well. We're going to have those first mushers off the starting line soon.
Hello, fans of the Iditarod Sled Dog Race. I'm Greg Heister. And I just wanted to take a moment, first of all, to say hello, but most importantly, to let you know that those of us here with the Iditarod Insider are very, very excited. We've got brand new state-of-the-art technology that is going to allow us to bring you more live images than ever before from places that we've never been before, but maybe most importantly, greater content. Interviews with mushers and checkers and race personnel and volunteers. We're going to bring all kinds of live information for you. It's important that you go to Iditarod.com and become a subscriber, because this insider has become a major portion of the financial foundation of this race, which means your support is crucial to perpetuating the purpose, which is to keep these dogs running across the landscapes of the great state of Alaska. Remember, that's why Joe Reddington Sr. and those in the early 1970s started this race. It's important that you get on board, Become an insider. Become directly responsible for keeping this last great race running. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. We hope to see you at Iditarod.com, and I certainly hope to see you out on the Iditarod Trail.
The warmest Iditarod start I've ever experienced right now, but it'll cool off tonight.
It will.
Yeah, I imagine things will get interesting. Usually it likes to wait a little bit, but we'll get there. And Tracy Sinclair, she's got our weathercast all covered for you, and she's got a Iditarod forecast.
I'd also like to recognize. Hey guys, I am so excited for the start of Iditarod. It kind of makes me think that spring is on the way. Today, definitely feeling spring-like. We've got these clear skies around South Central. Should be a lovely start to the race. But we've got a big storm headed our way. This is moving into western Alaska. Starting up later today, it is going to slide into the west coast. Probably by about early Tuesday is when we start to see the snow and the mushers all being in the same place. So we can see this bright yellow line. That is, of course, our Iditarod Trail. That's what we're looking for. So maybe even Monday night into Tuesday, we'll see that snow moving into the, right behind it, we'll see some hit and miss clear skies. Temperatures, though, start to drop. We're going to see single-digit highs by that point. And then we've got another system that could be impacting some mushers, but that's probably not until later in the day on Thursday, even into Friday. By that point, we're going to be some clear skies around South Central. So let's talk snow depth. There are some years, of course, where we don't have enough snow. That is not the problem this year. We've got plenty of snow around South Central. Willow, 35 inches of snow on the ground. Moving through Rainy Pass, also seeing some good heavy snow depths from a recent storm that's moved through. McGrath has also seeing 32 inches of snow on the ground. So overall, we don't have a snow problem this year. We're going to start the race right at 2 o'clock. We just got a few more minutes before that first musher heads out. Sunshine, temperatures into the mid to upper 20s throughout the day. It should be a great start to the Iditarod.
Well, if Tracy's promising some snow, I'm going to enjoy this sun while I can, because sounds like we could be getting some snow later on in this race.
Yeah, let's hope we get a little, because if we don't get any, Bruce, we could have a winner here in 7 days in a few hours and not 8 days in a few hours. So something's got to slow them down. It could be a fast track.
I think it will be a fast race regardless, but what I'm concerned about slowing them down actually is warmth, because the trail gets soft. And you can see in the background here probably these huge berms of snow. There is a lot of snow right here on the south side of the Alaska Range right now.
And you know who's familiar with fast Iditarods, winning Iditarods? Allie Zirkle. Sure. I had a chance to sit down with her and discuss her last race and what the Iditarod has meant to her.
Those dogs are raring to go. Allie Zirkle makes her way to Nome.
This has been Allie Zirkle's life every year since 2001. A 1,000-mile journey through Alaska's wilderness with her best friends.
Retirement for everyone has to be sometime, right?
The 49th Iditarod will be her last. This might be her final race, but she says it's not a swan song.
Last chance I have to beat Dallas Seedy, to beat Nick, to beat Aaron Burmeister, to beat Martin Boozer. That's how I'm looking at it. No, this year, 2021, is a race for me.
This February, she announced her retirement in a letter to a friend.
But I wrote that letter from the heart, I said some things that I really meant, and then obviously, it struck more people to their heart than the original intent. And so I was glad that I gave it out, that I posted it online, because I think a few people were like, oh my God, she's written that to me.
This connection with her fans has made her an icon of the race.
Allie is the darling of Iditarod in this age, and she will be missed dearly. She's a very good personal friend of mine. We discussed this in the spring. It wasn't anything new to me, but I think she's looking forward to moving on to things.
This popularity was never the goal when she adopted 6 dogs and began mushing in the small town of Bettles.
When you stand up after a beatdown, don't you feel better than if you won? Like if I won every single race and I just came across the finish line like, you know, then it'd be great and I'd be a high and mighty and there would be no issues in my life.
Her career hasn't been without issues, still searching for her first Iditarod victory after 3 runner-up finishes.
But, oh my God, when you're down and you're out and you struggle to get even back in there, that's when it means something. And that's probably when it means something to other people.
Her resilience has resonated with fans even during the darkest moments of her career.
I remember this woman coming up to me with her shopping cart and she's like, you know, just what you said in the few words that you said you had to reach out and talk to someone, a therapist after that attack. She said, you know, I'm glad you said that because there's a lot of people who don't realize how even people like you, Allie Zirkle, might seek some outside assistance.
In 2016, Zirkle was attacked and her team struck by a drunk snow machiner on the trail. Since then, she's been open about the mental impacts it's left and that she sought professional help to get through it.
Zirkle! Allie! Zirkle!
Hearing that her experiences have inspired others on a difficult journey has shown Zirkle that even out on the trail, she's not alone.
It's meant a lot to me for over 20 years that people have supported me.
No matter the circumstances, Alaskans have always stood by Allie.
I'm glad you got my back because for 20 years I've felt you back there and it's meant a lot. So thank you, Alaska.
We wish Allie the best of luck on her final Iditarod. Truly an icon of the race, and we're getting there. The race is about to start, so you're going to want to stick with us. When we come back, we're going to talk about our mushers to watch. So stick with us.
Just last night they opened their eyes, so just today we're actually able to see their eyes a little bit. Two boys, 2 girls.
Hello fans of the Iditarod Sled Dog Race. I'm Greg Heister. And I just wanted to take a moment, first of all, to say hello, but most importantly to let you know that those of us here with the Iditarod Insider are very, very excited. We've got brand new state-of-the-art technology that is going to allow us to bring you more live images than ever before from places that we've never been before, but maybe most importantly, greater content. Interviews with mushers and checkers and race personnel and volunteers. We're going to bring all kinds of live information for you. It's important that you go to Iditarod.com and become a subscriber because this insider has become a major portion of the financial foundation of this race, which means your support is crucial to perpetuating the purpose, which is to keep these dogs running across the landscapes of the great state of Alaska. Remember, that's why Joe Reddington Sr. and those in the early 1970s started this race. It's important that you get on board, become an insider, become directly responsible for keeping this last great race running. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. We hope to see you at Iditarod.com, and I certainly hope to see you out on the Iditarod Trail.
To support local broadcasts of the Tokyo, connect with the Channel 2 sales team.
And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Deshka Landing as we're getting ready for the start of the 49th annual Iditarod Trail Sled Dog Race. Greg Heister, Patrick Enslow, Bruce Lee, and there is the cutting of the ribbon, and that means that the start is just about official. We'll have dog teams moving to that start line momentarily. But before we start talking about the 49th Iditarod, of course, we've got to take a look back at the 48th Iditarod and the championship of Thomas Werner, a moment in history that will never be forgotten. But for right now, its true impact will have to come down the road.
The 48th Iditarod will find its right place in history, in time. For the first time, a race was altered by factors far from the trail. COVID-19 was looming, and by the time the teams got to the Yukon River, the effects of a growing viral attack
were front and center. The checkpoint of New Lotto became wall tents on the river. The community of Shaktoolik moved its checkpoint far from its village core. The race had to keep its fans, followers, and supporters along the trail free of fear and the questions of what if. And yet the teams kept on marching. The snow on the Yukon kept on falling, and the trail kept on opening for a Norwegian named Thomas Werner. His lead dogs K2 and Bark led his team through the tests and driving snow of the Arctic coast and on into Nome, becoming the third Norwegian to be an Iditarod champion. Mitch Seavey wasn't far behind. Many of those dogs that led him from 15th place on the Yukon to second place at the finish line will be in his son Dallas's team this year. COVID still looms a year later. The finish line and the greatest competition in the world, however, will still vie for another Iditarod championship, finding a way down the trail and through the twists and turns of a global pandemic.
Well, we appreciate that look back, Greg. And we're just minutes away, about 10 minutes out from this year's Iditarod. Things are getting good, and I think it's time to take a look at our mushers to watch this year. Now, these are not the picks to win. These are the mushers to watch. I know you guys want to emphasize that. And we're going to take a look at that in a second. But first, we're going to check in with our trail crew, Sean McGuire, who's joined by Didi Johnrow.
Thank you very much, Patrick. I am here with a musher who needs no introduction. This is Didi Johnrow, a veteran of the race, an Iditarod legend. Can you tell me, Didi, what is going to be different with this year with coronavirus and a different route?
Well, I think the most important thing that's going to be significantly different is how the drivers are going to be able to deal with all of the remote camping and the rural checkpoints. They're really only going to be going inside a very few places, only one place that I know where they'll have electricity available, and they're going to probably be a lot more camping out, and there's no long 150-mile river where you get to take a break kind of on the river. So it's going to be really interesting. It's going to require a strategy that nobody has ever tested before. So we'll just see how it goes.
Now, it's a very different route this year. They're going to go back up over the Alaska Range. What do you think are some of the challenges that might come with this very different route for this year's race?
Well, I think that those of us that have been out there as many years as, say, Martin has, can think of all sorts of challenges, all sorts of places where the trail has been scripted and made perfect for going the other direction. But when you're trying to come back south, there's going to be some really steep downhills. There's places where you can climb up and make a 90 around trees and keep going up, but coming down them, it's going to be felt like you're sucked into those trees. Plus, there's the trenches that are being created by each of the dog sleds that are coming one direction, then you got to turn around and go back up those. Now, last year when I did it by snow machine, there was actually trenches on the Happy River that coming down the steps that were over my head.
Wow, my gosh. Well, Didi, you're going to be joining us out there on the trail. It's going to be fantastic getting your perspective, giving us a musher's eye view of what all the mushers are going through and the experiences they all have, and I'm really excited to be out there with you. So thank you very much for joining me here, and I'll see you out in McGrath.
That sounds really good. Thanks,
Okay,
Sean.
thanks. Okay, and back to you, Patrick.
We appreciate it, Sean. Always great to hear from Didi. And now it's time for our mushers to watch from this year's race. And I'll start off with mine, Jessie Royer. I love the race she had last year. She was blitzing out to the west coast of Alaska, and she was really with that lead pack. And I expect another solid race from her this year as well. Your life, Seth Olsom, a lights-out musher, carries himself very well. Dallas Seavey, we're going to be talking about him a lot. Nicholas Petit looking for a bounce-back race. And Greg, you were telling me Brent Sassy's actually going to be dealing with some injuries this year?
Yeah, he broke his shoulder, had shoulder surgery on his clavicle and a dislocated shoulder in early January. Told me the other day he's 100%. I don't believe it. We'll find out if he encounters some tussocks out there, if, the jarring in that shoulder can withstand it. But My mushers to watch, of course, Dallas Seavey. He's got Mitch's dogs, plus the best of his. Nick Petit, he's about speed. Brent, I think, is a real contender. Martin Boozer, this could be a track where he makes an appearance back into the top 10. Keep an eye on him. And Riley Deich had his best offseason ever, put more miles on his dogs than ever before with Brent Sass. Keep an eye on Riley Deich.
Bruce, how about you?
For me, I mean, you got to have Dallas in there because he's been gone for a couple years.
Yeah.
So we're not just picking winners. I want to see what they've got now. I want to see interesting aspects of the race. Dallas Seavey, Brent Sass, he's hungry for a win. I like that. Nick Pettit, because he's led this race up to 800 miles before. It's about an 800-mile race this year. Richie Deal just won the Bogus Creek 150 and a week later won the Cusco 300. I saw that team. They looked amazing to me. And Paige Drobny, great improvement over the last few years. I've watched her and Cody build that kennel. She's been in the top 10. I'm excited to see what she does this year.
And we are not done talking about these mushers. When we come back from break, this race is going to be getting underway. I'm excited, so stick with us. We'll take one final break.
These guys are about 14, 15 weeks old. So this is Spitfire, Foxfire, and Fly.
Hello, fans of the Iditarod Sled Dog Race. I'm Greg Heister. And I just wanted to take a moment, first of all, to say hello, but most importantly, to let you know that those of us here with the Iditarod Insider are very, very excited. We've got brand new state-of-the-art technology that is going to allow us to bring you more live images than ever before from places that we've never been before, but maybe most importantly, greater content. Interviews with mushers and checkers and race personnel and volunteers. We're going to bring all kinds of live information for you. It's important that you go to Iditarod.com and become a subscriber because this insider has become a major portion of the financial foundation of this race, which means your support is crucial to perpetuating the purpose, which is to keep these dogs running across the landscapes of the great state of Alaska. Remember, that's why Joe Reddington Sr. and those in the early 1970s started this race. It's important that you get on board, become an insider, become directly responsible for keeping this last great race running. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. We hope to see you at Iditarod.com, and I certainly hope to see you out on the Iditarod Trail.
Welcome back to our coverage of Iditarod 49. I hear dogs barking, so I think it's time to race. Guys, we have Aaron Peck at the start line right now.
Yeah, Aaron Peck is from Grand Prairie, Alberta, Canada. He's a veteran, been around for a while, and I know, Bruce, he set his sights on a championship one of these days. That's what his mission is.
Absolutely. You know, he's not just here to go on a camping trip. He wants to build a champion Iditarod winning team, and he had to go through a lot of extra hoops and paperwork to get here out of Canada, so he's really hungry to be a participant in this race.
And do you guys think that'll be a factor with some of these guys who have to travel the extra miles to get into the state? Maybe a few more hoops? Does that kind of distract them from the race at all?
Makes them hungrier.
Makes them hungry, and probably doesn't have to go through any more hoops than someone like Pete Kaiser organizing to fly out of Bethel, which is even more remote. But it shows his desire to go through those extra efforts.
And he's got... And his dogs look ready to go there on the start line. And it's always, you know, great to see these first leadoff mushers. You know, if I was mushing the Iditarod, I think I would want to go first because then I could tell everybody, hey, I led the Iditarod. It was only for a few minutes, but hey, I was out there. I did my thing. Is there an ideal start position you would have as a musher if you could pick?
For myself, and I think the majority of the mushers, it is to be in the top 10 leaving because you're less likely, like all of us dealing with virus, dogs deal with viruses, so your dogs are more isolated. Also, the trail is generally better in the front unless there's a storm, then obviously the front teams are breaking it, but we don't have that. After all those little paws start punching holes in the trail, it gets a little rougher, and the breaking going downhill, you start digging these trenches that Dee Dee was talking about previously, and out front you've just got that smooth trail. So ideally, I think most of the competitors are serious competitors like Aaron Peck would prefer to be in that top 10 position.
Yeah, and his team should be leaving the start line any moments now, but like Bruce said, he looks to be in good shape starting off this race. You can't beat the weather, making his way back to the sled. Greg, what are you most excited to see from some of these first teams coming out of the chute?
Well, just the excitement and the gratitude, right? We're all grateful just to be out of our homes and out here on this trail and outdoors and breathing clean air, and we get to watch these great dog teams. I'm caught. Aaron Peck says he was first hooked on this race when he was 13, when he watched ABC Wild World of Sports, Susan Butcher winning the Iditarod. You do the math, that had to be like her last championship in 1990. So he was a young guy, really young, when he witnessed that on television. And here we sit today, bringing the 49th race to the world. It's exciting.
And he's out there chasing that dream. And coming up after Aaron Peck is Pete Kaiser, making his way to the start line. And everywhere on social media, you go out to Western Alaska, this guy is loved in Bethel.
He's really a favorite of mine. When he first hit the Iditarod as a rookie and I talked to him, I saw his enthusiasm, his great rapport with dogs. I said to Greg Heister,
yes, he did.
This guy's going to win the Iditarod someday. And Greg said, Bruce, come on. But after watching him a couple years, we both saw there's something you see in these top competitors, that hunger and really the desire to do endless work. It takes work.
And for me, it's the attention to detail. I mean, when you look at Pete Kaiser moving down the trail, his sled is always impeccable. The way he looks, it's put together. There's organization, there's attention to it all. You can tell more about these dog teams when the mushers are in a checkpoint. And you watch them, how deliberate they become and how organized they are once a dog team pulls in. You can tell more about whether or not they'll win the race than if you watch their dog teams moving down the trail. Pete's got that. He's an organized character of the game, and I think he'll win it again eventually now.
I agree. I think he will too. Be right there.
And in that champions panel you had with Martin Boozer, one of the things I love that he said to be a contender in this race, you need to be able to improvise, and that's something we see with Pete, is that improvisation, if I can speak, later in the race, is just that ability to improvise.
Yeah, I think that's the key to this whole thing, right? Adapting to whatever's in front of you. Not tomorrow, not next week, but at the moment. Adapt to the moment, every moment down the trail. The best ones are able to keep, through sleep deprivation, keep their brains focused on that. Pete's got that too.
Absolutely does. And he has a beautiful dog team. He always brings a beautiful dog team to every race he's in. There's very seldom a weak link in that dog team.
And as Pete went by, you could tell he wasn't wearing too much clothes. I think that speaks to how hot it is out here, but he didn't have very many layers on. Now, Christy Barrington making her way to the start line.
Yeah, and of course,
dogs is part of their family life. Andy races
the twin sister Anna will be out here as well, but the Barrington twins, hard to believe, they have over 20 Iditarod finishes now between the two of them. This is a really organized and now experienced operation by the Barringtons. And the question I've had for them for years is that when are you going to allow one of the sisters to take the 14 best dogs out of this kennel and try to win this doggone thing? Their best finish, I think, is 16th and 17th. They need to get into the top 10, Bruce. They have the experience now to do that. Will they break the team up to do it enough? They say this year they're going to do it, but we'll see.
Well, that's what they told you, and one's running more of the training B team. And I believe it is Christy that has what they consider the best team. So it will be nice to see them separate out and actually get in the mix.
So when they explained that to me, they also ended it by saying, well, but we can't, I got to leave Anna some of the best leaders. So again, they say they're going to do it, but ultimately are the 14 best dogs in their kennel in one team? We'll find out down the road.
And it's always fun to watch a tracker, and it's like, when are they going to meet up? In years past, you would always, watch them as they met up on the trail. Like you said, it'll be interesting to see if one of them will make a big push for a top 10 finish. They look to be getting off the start line here soon.
But years of experience now, and they've worked with a lot of other mushers. I mean, just when they were learning, like Dean Osmar, past champion, and others in their area, so they have a world of knowledge.
And there goes Christy Barrington. Good luck, Christy.
And they have a real following. Sponsorships follow the Barrington girls. They need to get up there where Paige Drobny is, where Jesse Royer is, where Ali Zirkle is. They need to contend for championships, and then I think their world changes.
And they're always fun to see out on the trail, too. Mushers with energy, I always love to run into them because it's a tough race, you know, going 800 to 1,000 miles. It's going to take the energy out of you. Now, big number 5, Jeremy Traska out of Two Rivers, Alaska. He's making his way to the start line. Now, Two Rivers, really a hotbed for mushing. Been out there a couple times, and it's so fun to see all the kennels out there.
And I talked to him out in the dog staging area, the dog yard where they're parked before the race, and it's being new to this. I asked him, are you nervous at all? Because people always want to know, what do the rookies feel? What do the new, less experienced mushers feel? And he said to me, he goes, I don't know anything other than what my dogs do 1 mile at a time. He said, I actually am amazed that I don't feel nervous and am just going to go out and run dogs.
And he's married to Shani Traska, who's run the race before. I think she was originally on the list this year, and maybe Jeremy has taken her spot, if I remember right.
That is correct, Greg. And so he stepped in. So the dogs are experienced, and I'm sure they have brainstormed about every little section of the trail.
And when you're from Two Rivers, the knowledge really flows up there. There are so many great teams in that area, and of course legendaries from the past, Swenson and Butcher and Sonny Lindner. They're all out in those areas. Ali Zirkle, of course, is there as well. So there's a great community of mushers around Two Rivers.
It's really a dog mushers community is what it is.
Bruce, what do you tell rookie mushers when you have conversations with them? Like, what's your biggest piece of advice? Is it mindset? Is the dogs? What's just kind of your biggest piece of advice?
Well, the first 3 rules of mushing are don't let go, don't let go, and don't let go.
That's always a solid start. Always a solid start.
But what I tell them is you're not going to know. You're just going the next mile. Because if you start looking at this thing as 1,000 miles as a rookie, and you're thinking about the finish line, you'll never get there. It's too big. But if you're just thinking about the next mile or even the next checkpoint, it's doable. It brings it down to where your head can focus on what you need to do.
The next musher to the line is Bib 6. He is no rookie to this race. Richie Deal had a great winter. A lot of things going for him in the sport and out of the sport as well. He's going to be getting married this summer, and a local brewery even named a beer after him. So it's an exciting time to be a Richie Deal fan.
And again, this is an example of what Greg was talking about, how these guys have that desire and they work for it. The first time I met Richie was out on the Iditarod Trail at Anvik. He wasn't racing. He rode a snow machine all the way from his home in Antioch to watch. And we sat there on straw bales doing interviews for the Insider and watching teams. He wanted to see how they fed. He was timing them. He was looking at every piece of equipment. That's how early the desire comes. And like Pete Kaiser was, this guy has been one of my favorites from the beginning, and he will win this.
What I love about Richie, you see the adversity in 2020. He had the worst race maybe of his entire career a year ago, and he turns right around and he wins the Cusco. Right? That shows that this guy is kind of dialed in. He's able to leave yesterday behind him and concentrate on the trail going forward. And Richie Deal is another player. His good friend, he watched Pete Kaiser win this race. He's got an avenue to the finish line if he can get there first as well.
There's a lot of momentum behind him and a lot of conversation too. And I guess too, are mushers aware of a lot of those expectations that people may have coming into the race for a guy like Richie Deal, where a lot of people, you know, they're going to expect a pretty big finish.
I would say more than pressure, it's support. They know how important it is, especially in Alaska, where these sled came from originally, places like the Kuskokwim, you know, and up on the Koyukuk, those great dogs that came out of Huslia. All those bloodlines are represented here. And more than pressure, I think they feel their support.
And we have Jeff Dieter to the start line. We were actually able to talk with him before the race about changes to this year's trail.
And I think I'm going to have some dogs that are super motivated to retrace their steps. They're going to know that we're going back to the finish. They're going to know exactly how far it is to the finish, which I think will excite some of them. It's definitely going to be a different race, which I'm excited about. Going into the Alaska Range twice is going to be amazing. Going up the Dalzell Gorge is hopefully going to be a little bit more of a relaxed experience than coming down it.
Jeff is also the president of the Iditarod.
And the thing I enjoy most about Jeff Dieter, I was telling this to Bruce before the race, he has so much energy and is a great guy to see at the checkpoint.
Yeah, I think he's really one of the new era, like the new breed of musher. He's really connected to social media. He kind of gets the marketing side of it. He's a new guy when it comes to kind of dog care and what a kennel should look like and what it should be like. He and his wife, Katie Jo, have done a great job with their tour business that they run up there outside of Fairbanks. They have a great place to train dogs. I think Jeff Dieter maybe is not ready to win this race, but he's ready to creep up into the top 10. He's a guy to keep an eye on for the future, because I think someday when this guy really gets serious and mean about winning, he's got a chance to get there first.
Looks like he is about to take off.
And
Jeff
Bibbs
Dieter
Bennett.
on his way in the 2021 Iditarod. Bid number 8 following him up is Dennis Kananowitz. Last year in 2020, he took 28th place, and I imagine his goal is to improve upon that.
And that's not a bad run for your first year.
Phenomenal. It's the sophomore year that you have to look at, because we see this a lot. It's the second time. We'll have to see how Dennis does. We're hopeful that he'll better that 28, but man, oftentimes we've seen that not happen.
And I think they overthink it. They get overconfident. Maybe it's really interesting how we see people have a top 10, top 20 run, and then they maybe what it boils down to is they push too hard, whereas before they were conservative. And then they learn, take it easy, take it easy. But that's a really great run for your first year out to finish 28th with as many hard competitors as are here.
When you see that number 28 in your mind as a competitor, a real competitor, you're thinking, okay, this year top 15.
Yeah.
Right? And when you look throughout the history of this race, to get into the top 15, you've got to have experience to get there. Your dogs can get you to a top 30 finish, but you got to, as a musher, have to be able to manage them well enough to get into the top 15. Whole different world. So I hope that he's conservative, lays back, and who knows, maybe he'll creep up higher than that.
Positions are won and lost in the checkpoints. You've seen that, Greg.
Yeah.
I mean, all these teams are so good, but it's time given away an organization and a checkpoint that decides the difference between 20th and 15th. 15th and 10th, we see it time and time again. And like we were talking about before, when you see somebody organized and focused, they've gained hours right away. So.
And with that gold trail loop, do you feel like that favors a certain type of musher?
I think it favors a certain type of dog, which is maybe not those hard-headed, go through any kind of storm coastal leaders, which Iditarod has a great history of seeing those win. This is probably going to be a more speed type of dog because they are going to come back on a better trail. But it still takes organization on the musher's part to not make mistakes and to keep that time organized for the team.
Bib number 9, Ramey Smith, making his way to the start line. No stranger to this race, and he actually had his
Lolly, and he's been around for a long time. Knocked on the door a lot in the mid-08, 09, 2010, 2011, and 12. He was right there. Had teams that were good enough to win it, just was unable to close the deal. But he's always a guy you got to keep an eye on, especially, in a race like this, because Ramey's a serious competitor. Now it's 100 miles shorter. Keep yourself in position. He knows these mountains and he knows these rivers on the way home. Like, this is almost in his backyard. backyard.
And
You never know.
And if I'm not wrong, he's won the award for the fastest time from safety to known, the last checkpoint to the finish line, year after year after year. And all of us that ever raced against Ramey know the last thing you want to see in the last 50 miles is to look over your shoulder and see Ramey Smith coming. He is a fast finisher. And this shorter trail might benefit him a little bit. But even when it's 1,000 miles, what do we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, get 10 of them.
Yeah.
And even when I've seen Ramey out on the trail, that guy is a gamer. He is intense. He is a guy who takes this race very seriously.
He is more emotionally locked into the moment than anybody out here. He's the nicest guy off the trail. You get him out on the trail and he's business. He doesn't want to talk to anybody, see anybody. He's all about the dogs, 100%.
Now, bib number 10, Nicholas Petit. He's on the radar of many folks during this year's race, and a lot of people feel this year will favor him. 800 miles, and you're not going to have to go to the coast as well.
And we got to remember, he also just won the Copper Basin 300. He is kind of dominated, other than the Cusco, where he got second, only minutes behind. He has kind of dominated winning all the middle distance races in Alaska this year. So that team has speed.
And I caught up with him at his kennel, and he talked about his training, and that was a part of his training, is he loves these mid-distance races.
His dogs have amazing energy.
There's a lot of mushers that train like they're in a race, so they can go do the Iditarod. I train until the races, and then I train by racing. I don't do anything in between them.
A to point B, he was just smoking everybody out there in those years.
Yeah, and I think I think we actually heard from him at his kennel. But like we said, he's looking to close the gap, has a great bond with his team. And Greg, you've been out there, you've seen him at his highest highs and his lowest lows out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And, he's still, chomping at the bit and kind of grinding away on it. But Nick Petit, as I traveled around to the different kennels this winter, all the top contenders, they all talked about Nick Petit because an 800-mile race might be in his sweet spot. Get the Arctic coast out of there, and now it's just a run to home with 150 miles all downhill from the top of Rainy Pass in. This could be the year for Nick Petit.
Yeah, and he was excited about this year's race. He's also very relaxed when you don't get him in that race environment and you're hanging out with him in his kennel. He has a very relaxing, open door policy with his dogs. I was there, and they were all there with him, hanging out, and I was like, this guy is in the right frame of mind for a race, not taking himself too seriously. Very relaxed, and he's also known for not having a plan as well.
Yeah.
Working for the court system. He began mushing in 1990.
And now we have Gunnar Johnson, bib number 11, making his way to the start line, checking out all his dogs. And it's ironic that he comes after Nick, because when I spoke with Nick, all he talked about when he talked about any other competitor was Gunnar Johnson. He felt very strongly about this musher.
That's interesting, and also that he's mentioned here in his bio that it changed his life when he saw a slideshow of Jim Lanier's, which is, of course, also where Nick Pettit started. It just shows this thing. Somebody sees a slideshow or watches Susan Butcher on Wide World of Sports, and it completely changes their lives. You can debate whether that's a good thing or not, but the impact that these sled dogs have on people's lives starting at an early age.
And I'm told he had more time to work with this team in years past. Maybe he had helped somebody out or somebody wasn't able to run the team. But this year he's been able to spend a lot of quality time with his team. And that chemistry should hopefully pay off with him on the trail. And I imagine the more time you spend with those dogs and you get in tune with your team, it's just going to pay you benefits down the road.
Oh, totally. It's all about the bond with the dogs. When the going gets tough, it's that bond with you when we say we're going and they trust. It's all about trust. And he's off.
There he goes, bib number 11. Good luck, Gunnar.
I'm just enjoying these guys' outfits. You can tell they're enjoying this warm weather. They're not all bundled up like we've seen in years past. Of course, last year the snow was just coming down.
They might be enjoying it, but I guarantee you they wished it was cold, right? Because this is, the sun feels great on our faces and it's warm, but this isn't what's best for their team as they leave off into a 900, 850, 900-mile race. They would rather it be 20 below right now.
Yeah.
And they would rather that the three of us be really miserable.
Yeah, people from outside of Alaska may not understand that, but the perfect window of temperature for sled dogs is 10 above to 20 below.
Having always been intrigued
and
by
now bib number 12, Hal Hansen at the start line. We were lucky enough, Greg was lucky enough before the race to chat with him, and he spoke with us about his philosophy going into this year's race.
1 minute, Hal. In 2017, Hal moved.
It's not a one-time thing. I caught the bug. And for most mushers, I think this is what we think about all the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And for me, I will continue to mush dogs. I don't know in what facet, if it'll ever become competitive, but I definitely will continue to be a dog musher after this.
And Eric and Charlene Hansen.
Greg, you spent some time with Hal, and what have you seen from him as he takes on his first Iditarod?
Well, his life around the sled dog started on the Yukon River, right? And so around sprint dogs. So he's kind of had an education in both worlds, and then he ended up down in Seward with, or in Sterling with Mitch and Janine Seavey and Danny Seavey, and helping with their team down there and their dogs. And so grew up in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Tough guy. He's a rancher, kind of like my buddy Bruce over there. He's a horse guy. And so now he comes to the Iditarod, and I know this guy is tickled, excited, and he's lived a long time for this moment. I'm happy for him.
He's off to a great adventure.
Starting shoot, please welcome.
And I'm glad he trimmed that beard. You know, I saw him this winter, he had a short beard, then I saw a photo of him, and it was down. He's trimmed it back. That's a good idea.
Well, and those Cowboys, too, they love those belt buckles, so hopefully he'll get a finisher's belt buckle to add to his wardrobe. Takes off.
Followed by Anna Barrington.
Man, look at Tail, though. He's moving out pretty good.
Their dreams have been made possible because of help and support from many friends,
Anna
family, and
Barrington
sponsors.
on the start line, checking out her team.
She lists her hobbies as
And
running,
it's,
triathlon,
you guys spoke about it earlier,
swimming,
Anna and Christy, who's going to take it?
and
Who's going to go for gold in this year's race?
I love that she's wearing bib number 13.
That's the
It's
magic
a great number,
bib.
yes. All the Mackeys, Dick Mackey, Rick Mackey, Lance Mackey. I think, did Martin Boozer win it one year with bib number 13
I know
as well?
Swenson did.
Swenson did, yeah. It's a great number in this race.
It's considered the lucky number for dog mushers.
And we were actually lucky enough to hear from Anna before this race.
It's hard when you're trying to field two teams out of one kennel and you want both teams to do the best you can. Like the fact that we broke into the top 20 the other year, like that was awesome and difficult too. So I think that when you try to do that with two teams, it gets kind of hard, and you start to spread yourself a little thin. And I think that if we put one team of all of our, 80% the best dogs we have, because we got to leave some leaders for the other team.
Trail in front of her.
And in that bite, we heard Anna talking about how they're switching teams up, and it's going to be fun to watch to see how that plays out during this year's race. And how much can you tell from a musher just in these first 100 to 200 miles early in the race, Bruce? What are you looking for as a musher?
I'm looking, as far as the musher's viewpoint, looking at the teams, particularly at Finger Lake, where Greg and I are going to be going, that they're not going too fast.
The key.
That they're getting there with a pace that suits that team. Now, as far as the Barringtons go, with Anna, if they're paired up by there again, I go, okay, they're going to travel together. I want to see Christy come in there without Anna and get in that rhythm. But what I want to see is people not going out too fast.
Yep, getting excited, kind of letting the moment be a little big. But we have bib number 14, Ryan Olson, at the start line. I've spent a brief time at her kennel, and she is sharp. She's also a airplane pilot as well.
Worked with Allie Zirkle. You know, she's one I have my eye on eventually too. She seems to have the desire to take the time to build a kennel. Now, when she gets those really good dogs and she learns a little bit more maybe about race strategies, I really think in the future she could, if she stays with us, could be one of our top 10s in a few years. Maybe this year, who knows?
And she likes those 1,000-mile races. She races in the Yukon Quest, and as you mentioned, get more experience, and we should see her kind of climb in those leaderboard standings.
Again, another one of those mushers that's in this for all the right reasons. She's really into the lifestyle, loves living with her dogs, and kind of came of age in the Alan Moore, Allie Zirkle kennel, understands breeding, understands, you know, her own dogs, and not bring a lot of other things in, and just kind of making it happen with what she has. She's got a tough streak in her. She's physically the right size to be competitive in this race. I think Ryan Olson down the road as well. If she got really serious and developed a killer instinct, this is a musher that we could be watching evolves eventually in this race as well.
And she is sharp. When you go to her kennel, it's organized. She completely knows what she's doing, and it's just very impressive the times that I've spoken with her. So I agree with you guys on that one. She'll be a force in this race for years to come. Bib number 15, Brenda Mackey. Now we talk about bloodlines with dogs, but as for families, it doesn't get any bigger than Mackey. Bruce, you actually competed with her on the Yukon Quest.
Yeah, actually, that was her last,
her only
1,000-mile race in 1998. She was 18 years old, and I immediately liked her. But I know her family, and I know her dad. I raced with Rick many years. No better person to travel on the trail with than her dad, Rick Mackey. And Brenda ran that Yukon Quest, and now she's taking a break. Been building a kennel. It's a big break, and she told me she was a little nervous right now, but same thing, when she gets out there, she'll just be running dogs, and she has been around this lifestyle and this sport from the time she could walk.
And we actually caught up with her before the race and asked her about finally running the Iditarod.
I've wanted to run the Iditarod since I was about 5, and that was a long time ago. I was planning to run the Iditarod the year after I ran the Quest, and then we didn't really have enough dogs at my parents' kennel to do 2 teams, so I didn't, and life just kind of took me elsewhere for about 8 years, and just took a while to get back into breeding and racing.
I'm going to be really excited to see how she does. She is just a great personality and person to be around, and I think this will be a very much a learning year for her. But there's one that maybe does feel the pressure of the support behind her with that legacy. But when she's out there, she'll just be running dogs. Knows dogs well.
Yeah, and her husband, Will Rhodes, a big part. They've got a serious kennel. I've been up there. They've got a lot of dogs. They've got a great place to train dogs. I think that, this could trigger like the desire to kind of get really entrenched into this long distance mushing thing and racing for Brenda. I hope it is. It's great to have a Mackey back in the race. She talked when I was out there. I interviewed Rick, her dad, as well. We could see Rick next year in the 50th Iditarod. Let's hope.
And Greg, this is a musher you're high on. Riley Deich going to the start line wearing bib number 16. He raced last year in 2020 and took 25th place. But what do you know about Riley?
Well, he finished 25th last year as a rookie, which is a great finish. As we talked about a moment ago, like you can't get caught up in that number as a sophomore and thinking, well, 25th this year, top 15 this year. Just go out conservatively. I know he's put a lot of miles on his dogs. They're probably as prepared as he's ever had a team prepared. And just go out there and, just methodically move down the trail. Put yourself in position to be there at the end. I don't think he can win it this year, but I think that Riley could get to top 20.
And let's hear from Riley about how that trail can change so quickly.
I really got a sense for that was like turning on a light switch. It was lightly gusty and flurries coming down, and then all of a sudden it was 70-mile-an-hour winds, and stepped off my sled for a second and it tumbled it through the snow, and it was pretty incredible how intense and it got in such a short amount of time.
And Riley is getting prepared to take on the Iditarod for another year, giving it a second try. And Greg, by the way you talk about him, it sounds like this guy's, he's in it for a long haul.
Well, he trained out there with Brent Sass all winter. He was out at Susan Butcher and Dave Monson's training camp where Susan trained her teams and won all those Iditarod. It's a great place, great trails. He did a lot of long runs, and I know that his team has twice the miles on it than it's ever had. So it's in great cardiovascular condition. If he can hold back and go conservatively, he'll have enough left in the tank to really make a stretch run off the rainy pass home. So I'm rooting for Riley.
Bib number 17, Matt Hall, also from Two Rivers, Alaska. And he is a Yukon Quest champion. I was there to cover it when he won it, and he is a fun musher. He was all smiles after winning this race, so he has experience with these 1,000-mile races, and he had a top 10 finish in the Iditarod as well. Bruce, do you have expectations, or what you expect to see from him out on the trail?
Well, I know Matt Hall because when I was running the Yukon Quest, he grew up in Eagle.
Yeah.
He's in Two Rivers now, but he'd be out there watching teams compete when he was a kid. His dad's a musher. He grew up in that bush lifestyle. And one of the things it takes to be good at this is a work ethic. You don't just go out and run dogs. And he's done the work, and look at how young he's accomplished so much.
And he spoke with us that is this the year he can finally win the Iditarod?
We're coming back to do the best we can, of course, I mean, do I expect to win Iditarod this next year? Not yet, no. Do I want to keep pushing into the top 10 or top 5? Last year being 6th place, one out of top 5, yes. That's the goal, that's what I want to do.
Matt seems to have a good head on his shoulders, just talking about chipping away, and he has a goal of cracking the top 5. It seems small, but when you get to that top 10, those are elite level mushers, and he says he wants to crack that top 5. That's his goal for this year's race.
Yeah, the way I would explain that, just think of the shape of a pyramid. There's a big base, and you can be an Iditarod musher. Now at the peak, let's put the champion. There's less and less room to be as you go up. So getting in that top 5, that's a very elite group to break it, whether it's Yukon Quest or Iditarod. That's where you really go head to head with people. You can't make the little mistakes that a person down at 30th could make.
Bib number 18, Chad Stoddard, heading to the start line, another rookie in this year's race.
Snodgrass, and has also spent time in Petersburg, Alaska as a commercial fisherman.
That should be fun to watch him out there. We'll see how he gets out of the gate for those first 200 miles, but he's getting that last final kiss. Hopefully that's good luck for him. And as a rookie, do you remember maybe what you were most nervous about, or maybe what kind of ate up most of your time? Just, is it the unknown that you've never done the race, and is that kind of the part you were most nervous about when you were a rookie?
It was the excitement of seeing these places of legend. I mean, you got to love the outdoors. To travel across the Alaska Range, to see the Dazelle Gorge, to see the steps, that was the big positive thing to see. The other was just that goal of just please let me get to the finish line.
Yeah, because I was going to say, Bruce is a little different because he was living out on the Brooks Range and kind of living off subsistence-style life, and so him coming to a race to go 1,000 miles was not something that he knew he couldn't do. A guy like Chad, who grew up in Anchorage, right, has spent time training with Lance Mackey, he doesn't know yet if he can get to the finish line. I think that's what he's really out to prove. They want to see these legendary places, but can I get there? And different than a guy like Bruce.
And can we get to the finish of our broadcast? That will be a great question, but we're going to take a brief break, and then when we get back, we will continue our coverage of the 49th Iditarod.
In 2021, the Iditarod, the mushers, and their dogs need your support more than ever before. Your Iditarod Insider subscription is a great way to help ensure that this great race is run across the Alaskan wilderness each and every year. The Insider Nation is behind each of our human and canine athletes. So join us today. Subscribe to Insider Ultimate Plus for exclusive access to stream our past 12 documentaries. Your Insider Plus level support will include access to Insider Video on Demand, live streaming, and GPS tracking. If you've already renewed, you can upgrade by going to your account and purchasing the upgrade. Subscribe or upgrade at iditarod.com/insider.
Welcome back to our coverage of the 2021 Iditarod as teams take on the Gold Trail Loop. The first time the race has taken this trail. Bib number 19, Christopher Parker at the start line. He's a musher with a hometown of Fairbanks, Alaska.
You know what can't get lost in this moment for these rookies? They've been working for this now for weeks and months, and in some cases for years. We can't downplay what this moment is for them. This is a culmination of a tremendous amount of energy, a tremendous amount of money, in most cases money that they don't have, to buy the gear that they need to do it properly. But this is a dream. Like, dreams are happening today for a guy like Christopher Parker going out on the Iditarod Trail. Like, we can't downplay that at all. This is a big moment for a lot of these people. Bruce and I have been around this thing for so long, I think we take that for granted sometimes. But think about something that you have worked at for weeks, months, and in some cases years, and that morning when you woke up and said, this is the morning. It's that afternoon for Chris Parker right now, headed down the Iditarod Trail.
And that bright green color can only mean one thing. Bib number 20, Ryan Reddington, a name synonymous with the race. Very competitive musher. Had a top 10 finish last year. Expecting big things out of Ryan this year.
I enjoyed getting to know Ryan more last year down at the Bear Grease, which he won. He's a repeat Bear Grease champion, and he's really come a long ways in learning to handle and manage a team. Like you said, last year, 8th place. He's in the running now. And a lot of the other competitors mentioned to me on this trail, coming back to his country, so to speak, if he's out front, they think he could be a real challenge to beat.
Conservative. I just want to see him go slow in the beginning. I don't want him to be up in the lead going into Finger Lake or Rainy Pass. Just be back there around 15th or 20th and just kind of keep it together to that 24-hour rest, and then put the pedal down, right? Then if you want to get aggressive, like allow it to happen, you got to be aggressive to win this race. I don't think you can be conservative the entire way. You got to do it at some point in time. You just can't do it in the first 400 miles.
And we know that team has speed.
Yes.
So it's when you want to use that speed. You go out of here 800 miles dropping the hammer right away, you're probably not going to be going as fast coming back. I'd say you want to be
20.
the same
Good luck,
speed
Ryan.
the whole way. That's my idea of a good dog team.
And you guys had talked a lot about speed, though, too, as well, that speed will be a big factor in this year's race with the trail the way it is.
Well, it's because of what Greg said. From the top of Rainy Pass, it's downhill right here to where we're setting right now. We don't have all those hills on the coast of the Bering Sea. That just means dogs, if the trail's good, can use their speed.
And that's whatever, when I say, well, Brent Sasson, he's at the line now, he's a contender, he could win. And then I hear from people that say, well, I don't know, because I don't know if his team's fast enough, right? That's the concern right now with Brent Sass. If this was a 2,000-mile race, he's the guy. Does he have enough speed in his genetics and his team to get there first? I know he's got enough toughness. I know we saw last year, Bruce, he did a much better job with management, right? Finishing 4th place, his first top 5, really top 10 finish. I think he's ready to win it. I'm not sure this is the trail that he gets it done on, but time will tell. He could still win.
I agree with you on that. I mean, if this was, like you said, a 2,000-mile trail or a trail, where there were coastal storms and the Yukon River was blown in, Brent's who's my money is on. He's tough enough. And he did the same thing in the Yukon Quest before he became a champion. Kind of overran a little at first and then figured it out.
He's a musher who's very proud of where he's from as well. We actually spoke to him about the legacy in Eureka that he has.
Huge smiles on my face traveling on the trail to Rampart, which is an old mail run, and listening to a book about guys in the 20s traveling down that trail is just really awesome. And then in the rich history of Rick Swenson and Susan Butcher in this area, I mean, they've got 9 Iditarod championships between the two of them, and that just is, it says a lot about this place and the training that it provides.
Good luck, Brent.
And Brent Sass on his way for the 49th Iditarod. Going to be a fun musher to watch and dealing with that injury, so it'll be interesting to see how he approaches this year's race, battling a little physical adversity with himself.
Yeah, think about it now. Like, this is like an NFL football player hurting his knee, right, or his ankle. A shoulder to a musher is everything. Like, that's where your strength is. Like, that's how you hold onto the sled. And as Bruce started this broadcast saying that the 3 most important things for a musher is to hold on, well, it begins right here. And if you can't hold on with a busted shoulder, he's in trouble. But he'll be okay. Brent's tough enough. He'll tie himself to the sled if he has to.
Loves the sport. Now, next at the line, bib number 22, Joanna Jago. This will be her rookie race, and she's from Fairbanks, Alaska. Now, she grew up half the year living in Fairbanks and the other half of the year at a parent's remote trapline cabin on the Porcupine River. So somebody who loves the outdoors of Alaska, and she's a rookie, but she's all about dog mushing.
I really like these
dog mushing is one of my passions. Ever since I was little, I absolutely loved it. My dad thought I was crazy several times when I was like, oh, I want to do dog racing. He's like, oh boy. But yeah, it's just so addicting once you get out there. You're always planning the next time you'll be out and doing a race.
Big dance trucking. Non-stop dog.
Now, bib number 22, Joanna Jago. She is at the start line getting ready to take on her rookie Iditarod. And Bruce, like you mentioned, she's from Alaska. She's from those outskirts, you know, living in Fairbanks and then living on the Porcupine River. And that's an experience you guys feel that's really going to help her this year, especially because a lot of people are talking about camping. Camping's been a big theme specifically to this year's Iditarod.
Yeah, and grew up on a trap line with her dad, and she told me when I was at her place this winter that she's chosen the Iditarod because she's not sure she can handle the cold of the Yukon Quest. So she's even lucking out with this day like this. She's loving today.
And then next to the line, bib number 23, Dallas Seavey, a 4-time Iditarod champion. He makes his return to the race. What are you guys expecting to see from Dallas during this year's race?
Let's just look at these numbers. 2012 first, 2013 fourth, 14 first, 15 first, 16 first, 17 second, his last race. This is the odds-on favorite to win.
It has to
Period.
be, because on top of that history, we know that he has said he also had the pick of some of the other best sled dogs in the world from his dad, Mitch. 2 of the best kennels in the world combining dogs.
And if he wins, he ties Rick Swenson for number 5, the only 2 mushers then that would have 5 in the history of this race.
Yeah, he spoke with us before this year's Iditarod, and he talked about his return to the race.
You know, it's exciting again. That's cool for me. I'm excited about the race. I'm excited about the Iditarod and the direction I think it's going. The people we have in there, I'm encouraged by. I'm rejuvenated. I feel like, you know, when it's 365 days between races, it's like, all right, here we go again. But when you double that, then you're amped. You're ready to, ready to charge, chomping at the bit. So I'm ready.
Do you guys feel his break from the race is actually going to help him to come back better? He seems really recharged and excited to come back in. Do you think maybe more of that clarity is just got him ready to go and will help him in the long run?
Think about something you absolutely love, your greatest passion in life, and you don't do it for a few years. The next day that you get to do it, you're going to be chomping at the bit. It's a glorious moment for Dallas Seavey. He's back on the Iditarod Trail where he belongs, And this
Next
is
to
one of the
shoot, bib
great
number 24,
historical
Iditarod
figures in this
veteran
race's history,
Jesse
and he's far
Royer.
from done.
And he's the example that you were talking about of being organized in checkpoints. We have the privilege of seeing him out there. He wastes no time getting his chores done, getting to sleep, getting ready to leave.
Just sharp. Sharp is what comes to mind when you see him at those checkpoints. He never looks lost. He knows exactly what he's doing. And even on low sleep, the guy is just, he's a game changer, and he's always someone, and you know, he's one out there that the mushers are always of, where is Dallas? They're always aware of where he's at.
Yeah.
And speaking
here's
of,
another one.
of no sleep, there is nobody who does better with sleep deprivation than this musher right here, Jessie Royer. She is tough. She's an outdoors woman. She loves working with sled dogs, and she told Greg and I that she's been so busy and worked so hard, she's looking forward to the vacation of being on the Iditarod. That's how tough she works.
Several times in the top 10. Jessie loves, she's on horseback for most of the summer. She competes in, I forget the name, but it's a competition.
Ride and shoot.
Ride and shoot, it's called, yeah. And she shoots balloons and on horseback. I saw it this summer. It was fantastic.
But she really never gets tired. It is unbelievable. We know that she is, but you never see it on her.
And just such a strong race in 2020 as well. She was the one I really enjoyed to watch, and it'd be great to just see her build on that performance as well.
She's definitely a contender to win this. Again, I think for Greg and I watching these teams and studying them so much, we probably both question the speed a little bit compared to some others for this race, but she's definitely capable of winning this Iditarod.
Well, her vacation is underway.
There it is. Enjoy it.
Next in the starting chute,
I hope she brought some sunscreen.
right here in Willow, Alaska. Please welcome.
Do you ever take sunscreen out on the Iditarod Trail with you, Bruce?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Good.
Because
Jessie Royer.
get wind chaps.
Oh, wind chaps, yeah.
You're never one of those guys kicking yourself like, oh, should have brought the sunscreen.
Well, Jessie's third place the last 2 years. Legitimate dog driver right there.
And bib number 25, Wade Mars, making his way to the start line. And another musher we see quite a bit in this race. He had a great run 2015 to 2017, top 10 finishes, scratched in 2018, and then 2019 he took 14th and 12th place.
And he's a brand new dad. He and his wife just had their first baby, and it's a different time for Wade Mars, and I'm excited for him. I mean, fatherhood is the best, and now he gets to do that. Now he gets to continue with his dream of winning the Iditarod, part of Stump Jumping Kennels.
And we spoke with Wade before the race, and he said he is ready for the 2021 Iditarod.
I think as far as the race goes and the atmosphere of mushing, it's let's do it. And if it's a danger to our friends in the villages and stuff, let's stay in wall tents or in a snowbank. We don't care. We're ready to race, and as long as everything's there to take care of the dogs in that part, then we're ready to rumble.
Bruce, is there a missing piece maybe on Wade's team that if he can kind of figure it out, he can get back into that top 10 in this year's race?
Well, he's got quite a few Iditarods under his belt, but Wade's still, you know, he's building a family, he's building a home, he's building a kennel, but he got into this very young. So I think he's one of them that he's loved this lifestyle from the time he was a little kid. He said he was taking crayons and drawing dog teams. It's deceiving because you see so many Iditarods, but he's still building a legacy there. And Greg and I went to his house when he first moved to where he is. You know, he's living in it before it was even done and running dogs. So I think for him, it's getting the genetics and just kind of getting the whole package together.
Well, this summer, he put an addition on his house. It's the first toilet I think that he's ever had in his house. So, you know, he got married, baby on the way. Wade had to get it done. He's just the guy that knows how to get it done.
And speaking of somebody who loves mushing, just the sport, is very pure with it, Michelle Phillips, bib number 26 here at the start line from Tagish Yukon, Canada.
One of my favorite mushers, I like all of them from the Yukon Quest, because they're trail tough, but Michelle always has a great attitude out on the trail. She laughs constantly at hardship, and I know her and her husband Ed they've just dedicated their life to this. They're just in the lifestyle, and that's what it takes. You don't just get a bunch of dogs and go. It takes a lot of work, and it takes a commitment to a lifestyle.
And I always find it interesting with Michelle. She's the only person probably in the history of mushing that went from competitive figure skating, right, to long-distance dog mushing. It's not an easy transition, right, from the triple kowtow or the triple Lutz or whatever they call it to going 1,000 miles on a dog team, but she's obviously done it successful. She's a blast to have on the trail. You never see her grumpy. You never see her overwhelmed. She loves adversity, it appears to be. She's got tough dogs, and she's got a tour business in the off-season, so you know these dogs are trained up, and they're in shape, and now Michelle's out to have a great run.
And it's always fun to see the families that are so invested, because you'll see Ed at a lot of these races, and he is just so invested in her team, and it's just cool to see everybody supporting each other and really trying to get the dogs in the best shape and just kind of the peak performance they can get into before the Iditarod.
Yeah, we're big fans of Michelle, and I know Bruce knows them well too, she and her husband Ed, so we always root for Michelle.
And bib number 27, Will Trzynski, making his way to the start line. This will be his rookie race, and he's looking to raise awareness as well for depression. But Will looking to get to the finish line, looking to earn that belt buckle.
Mentored by the great Martin Boozer, another one of his.
And again, you got that aspect of asking what's on their mind. I think just your big goal is just to get to the finish line, to have this accomplishment. And like you were saying, Greg, all the work it takes, I would put it, the only thing I would compare it to is finally graduating from college. That's a 4-year investment, and that's what for most of these people it is. 4-year investment, and finally you get that diploma and walk up on that stage. You just don't do this in one winter.
And is there a mile at the race when you're a rookie? I know when you run a marathon, it's mile 18. They always talk about that's when the exhaustion hits. That's when you're going to hit the brick wall. Is there a part in the race for you where maybe for rookies they really got to dig deep and they really got to look at themselves to say, we're going to finish this race?
The first place I really see exhaustion on mushers' faces is probably Nikolai. After they've come over the range, they let down a little bit, but the sleep deprivation starts kicking in at about Nikolai. And
I would answer the question by asking Sean Underwood, who got 30 miles from the finish line a year ago as a rookie and had to quit. So I don't know if you ever know that until you see the arch, because you would think, yeah, there's a point in time where it becomes, okay, I've got this. I don't think, especially when a fish finishes on the Bering Sea coast and that wind starts blowing and all those blowholes, this trail may be a little different. It'll be easier for a rookie to get to this finish.
Now at the start line, bib number 28, Mila Porsild, last year's Rookie of the Year, so big things. A lot of people excited to see her take on that sophomore race, and like you've said before, Greg, sophomore year, one of the tougher years.
Especially when you're coming off a 15th place finish. I mean, there's not far to go up from there. But Millie's been around mushing and dogs for her entire adult life. Great lady. And at 15th place a year ago, earning her Rookie of the Year honors. I know she told me she's not putting any pressure on herself to do better than that, but come on, you're a competitor. You want to do better.
She has, you can see it in her. She's just competitive in everything that she does. But that was an outstanding first Iditarod to come in 15th and everything that she went through on that race. So this will be an interesting person to follow. And if fans don't know it, she's not a rookie, but she was. But in Iditarod, we have Rookie of the Year. There's a rookie race. They're running the same race. That's always really fun for me to see who will be the Rookie of the Year. So when you're following this race, watch those rookies too. See how they're doing.
And you might get a glimpse of Dean Osmar out there, the 1984 champion of the Iditarod. He's actually leased 6 dogs to Miller. for this race, and so he was
Good luck,
certainly in
Villa.
the background there. But
Bib number 28
Villa
in
loves
her
this
second
trail.
Iditarod.
It changed her life a year ago. She wasn't sure she'd do it again. She figured this
Next
might
to
just
shoot,
be a
please
one-time
welcome
deal,
bib
but
number 29,
she sunk in. She stood too close to the vortex. She's been sucked in.
Got bit by that bug.
Yeah.
I remember early on in that race, she would just go on and on. It's like, I love it. This is right where I want to be. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. Kind of like Jesse Roy. You know, this is a vacation to me. Back to the start line where Matthew Failer is preparing to take on yet another Iditarod, a competitor, a fan favorite as well. He's really growing his fan base. And you'll talk to a lot of people and they'll be like, I went out to Matt's cabin, we checked it out, we took a dog sled ride, and it was just awesome. So this guy, a fan favorite for sure.
And this is what I predict with Matt Failer. 18th was his top finish, 18th and 19th, 13th in 2018. He's a serious guy. He has devoted everything he's got,
out of his own
and recently he got married. And oftentimes in these partnerships in this event, his wife is going to become a big part of his kennel and managing it and creating a business and helping Matt compete. This is going to be a guy in the next 5 years. We're going to be talking about him. He's going to be on our short list of contenders.
And we spoke with him before this year's race, and he actually talked about the race route.
Oh, I'm okay with it. You know, initially there's a little bit of disappointment because you want to go to Nome, you know, you want to see your friends in the villages, but we're just happy that they're figuring out a way to have a safe race. So.
And Bruce, it was like when Greg left, he had spoken about, you know, it's that build. And how many Iditarod races does it take before you really just start to get in that zone as a musher where you feel like you're going to be in the top 10 every year? How long does it take to build towards that?
I think that a lot of that depends on your background beforehand. Like you take a Dallas Seavey that grew up with that and is a competitor in other sports, I think that can happen pretty quickly. That's one of the things we're always watching with these rookies. Who's got that? You know, like when we first saw, which we mentioned, Pete Kaiser, there's just something there. And so some do it quickly, but they've already got the outdoor skills. They also have the work ethic.
We head back to the start line. Bib number 30, Joshua McNeil. He's 26 years old. He was born in the small logging community of Amboy, Washington, but he's an avid outdoorsman, another one who loves the outdoors. So Bruce, I know he's already got your heart.
Yeah, but this is a different outdoors up here than Washington. I mean, working in the cold, sleep deprivation, you know, working animal husbandry skills, you know, all of that's got to come into that.
Yeah, and he has spent some time in Alaska. You know, he worked summers in the Kenai at a fishing lodge, and the day after he graduated, he moved full-time to Alaska. He attended UAF as well, so he has spent some time in Alaska, but he's taken on his first Iditarod, and we wish him the best of luck. Kissing his significant other there. And he's part of Crooked Creek Mushing.
He's off on a great adventure. That's what I like about it. You know, then you really get out there and see what it's like to travel the landscape with these amazing animals. I mean, what people are seeing here are the best athletes in the world, the best, toughest, strongest, smartest sled dogs in the world.
Not to downplay the trail in this Gold Loop Trail. I think for the winner, the championship is going to be legit because you're still beating the best competition in the world, minus Thomas Werner, K2, and Bart. But for a rookie, I got to come back. The Iditarod Trail is about the Yukon River and the Bering Sea coast, and I don't think you can say that I've truly done the Iditarod and all it has to offer unless I get to the finish line. I think it's different for the champion because it's still about beating the best in the world, and it's still about getting to the finish line. I think it's different for a rookie. Joshua and these other rookies will have to come back, even if they finish, in my opinion.
Yeah, and we look forward to seeing, hopefully we'll see him here next year. Now, bib number 31, Susanna Tumanelli out of Willow, Alaska, getting ready for her first Iditarod as well.
Grew up on Cape Cod.
She says, like most mushers, Her life hasn't been the same since she
It's
stepped
that thing of standing too close to the vortex. I mean, you might end up running this in no time. You never know. Because you just finally want to experience it from the inside. I do agree with you 100%, Greg, for myself. If I was running this year, I'd be excited. The competitors are competing with each other. But as far as that, seeing the Iditarod Trail, I've got to go under that arch and know them. So we look forward to going back to that community.
And she spoke about some of her worries about this year's trail heading into this year's race.
The only thing that really makes me worried though is the more technical aspects of the trail. I'm a little clumsy of a person, so I get a little bit more stressed out on those roller coaster type sections.
Bid number 31, Susanna Tuminelli, getting prepared for the first Iditarod.
Good luck, Susanna Tuminelli.
Our team looks eager to take on that trail, looks ready to get out of here. I know leading up into this week, we had talked about this race so much. It feels nice when it gets underway and we can watch it all unravel.
Yeah, and she's just got to be excited, nervous, the different feelings. Right? If I was the rookie running this, I just want to get to the first night. That first place where I can just pull over and camp with them, take a deep breath, and just relax. And I wonder what Allie is feeling today. This her final Iditarod.
Yeah, it's a big moment, but when I interviewed her a few days ago, we talked, she says, I guarantee you I'll still try and compete hard, but I'm going to be smiling. And there is no better role model for people anywhere about being a good competitor, a good athlete than Allie Zirkle. She has been good for this race, and she has been a great role model for mushing and sled dogs care. There's just not enough you can say about Allie that isn't tied to sled dogs and being a strong competitor.
And she spoke to us earlier before the race about how she feels like a lot of mushers have a chance to win this year's race.
The races for the last few years, there's been a lot more mushers and teams up there at miles 600 and 700, and it was only been mile 700, 800, 900 where 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 teams came to the top. So we might be a little more neck and neck towards the finish line. I think that's a possibility.
Greg, do you have a favorite memory from Allie on the Iditarod Trail?
So many of them. And the one thing that I tell people all the time is that Allie Zirkle, I've never, ever heard complain about anything. No trail conditions, no weather event, no competition, not her dogs not doing well. She ends everything with a smile, and it is what it is. This woman was put on the planet to run 1,000-mile dog races across the greatest wildernesses that we have, and she's not going to do it after this year. It's shocking to me. It's a sad thing for me. This is one of the great characters of the game in the history of this race. I'm going to soak up every minute I have with Allie Zirkle out on this trail.
And you had a great question, too. I listened to your interview with her. You said, Allie, are you sure? We've heard this from mushers. Are you positive?
She's done. She's done.
She might take sled dogs and go camping. She's still going to have some dogs. She loves the outdoors, but she has been a great competitor in this sport.
The best, just the best.
And again, like you were saying, Greg, the aspect of having a partner, Alan Moore, Yukon Quest champion, it makes you a stronger competitor.
Travis Beals up to the line out of Seward, Alaska, and he has 3 strong races heading into this year, 2018. He took 9th. 2019, he was 5th. In 2020, he was in 10th place. So Travis can really mush. He can get up there with the lead pack.
He's been improving. Greg spotted him a few years ago, this improvement. Greg went up to his operation on the glaciers in the summer and said, this guy's really doing the work, really improving in this.
Yeah, he's got a business now behind his operation, a tour business, so he's got a flow of some money coming in. He's got help. He's a lot like Wade Mars, where he's wanted to do this since he was 4 years old. He's a guy that dreams of winning the Iditarod.
And we spoke with him, and he talked about how many lead dogs he has on his team.
there's, you know, a good 4 to 6 dogs out of my 30 dogs in the kennel that are training here that are phenomenal. They'll go from start to finish and lead if I ask them to. But, you know, yeah, you're not gonna see a kennel of 30 and have 15 to 20 awesome ones. There's dogs that will take their turn and lead, and there's dogs that will take charge and lead the team.
Good to hear from Travis. Now on the line, Martin Boozer. You just look at his bio. It takes up about 2 or 3 pages. This guy has been in the race for a long time, a great musher, and he represents the sport well.
Total legacy guy, right? He's had so many underlings come out and do well on this trail. He to me, other than Susan Butcher, the most important figure in the history of the race. Bruce, I think if it's a fast trail, I think he's got another one in him.
I do too. I agree. I thought that when this trail got established, this could be a Martin year. And look, started this in 1980. I mean, he's dedicated his entire life to this. But I will say this about Martin. When I ask him, we'll get this and talk to Martin, and then I'll tell you a little something he told me.
And there are so many teams out there that have put together the equation of being young, experienced, and having the infrastructure behind them. And after, you know, so many decades, after over 6 decades of life, the challenge might become, can you finish another Iditarod?
And Bruce, you had a thought there. Let's pick it back up.
Well, I asked Martin last year at the start, what's the thing you're most proud of you might mention real quick? And he said, everybody I've trained, like from his kennel, to run the Iditarod, they've all made it to the finish line. And he's trained a lot of them, like Matt Failer.
And a lot of others. The Elam 11 a year ago got to the finish line because of
There goes
that
Martin
guy.
Boozer and Iditarod 49.
Well, as Martin
Now we're gonna
takes
have a
on
4-minute break.
another Iditarod, he's got a record for most consecutive finishes. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, it's going to be bib 36, Aaron Burmeister.
This year, the Iditarod, our fearless mushers and their amazing canine athletes, need your support more than ever. In the spirit of the 1925 Serum Run, these teams will brave the Alaskan wilderness and uphold the tradition of traveling this land together in the last great race. Help them continue the dream. Become an Iditarod Insider. Join us now. Subscribe to Insider Ultimate Plus for exclusive access to stream our past documentaries. Your Insider Plus level support will include access to Insider Video on Demand, live streaming, and GPS tracking. If you've already renewed, you can upgrade by going to your account and purchasing the upgrade. Subscribe or upgrade at iditarod.com/insider.
The GPS
Welcome back to our coverage of Iditarod 49, and it's exciting, and it's great to have this race underway. We got mushers on the trail.
Yeah, like it's been a long time coming. You're never sure. We're in the middle of a global pandemic. Iditarod, what a job they've done to make sure that this event carries on. And here we are on the cusp of another race. What do we got, 34 teams out on the trail right now. It's an exciting day.
Yeah, and I feel like as fans, we earned it with the year everyone went through. The mushers, same goes for them, and it's just a race for everybody. And now to the start line, bib number 36, right, Aaron Burmeister. He's not going to be heading home this year. Typically, you know, he finishes the race in Nome, but that won't be the case this year.
No, he won't be going to Nome, but he told me he was super excited about just having a race, that this is going to occur. Because when you've invested years raising puppies, then training them as yearlings, you know, it's going from junior varsity to varsity, and you got sled dogs trained that are capable of doing this. You want to race it. You want to let them do what they are born to do. So he's super excited about that. I'm always glad to see Aaron do well, because when I quit running the Iditarod, I sold Aaron half my kennel, so my bloodlines are in there. And so I like seeing these top 10 finishes there.
Yeah, 5th a year ago.
He's definitely one of our mushers that is hungry, who has been trying and trying, and He's out here to get a win. That's a goal for him.
And Aaron shared with us that he's a big proponent of early season training.
If I'm on the trail and Iditarod and I pull into a checkpoint and there's not a lot of handlers around or a lot of people, I want those dogs to look at me and pay attention to me. And if I tell them to sit down and take a breather, they're not screaming and banging to go all the time. They know that it's time to relax, and that's part of the early season training, is control, paying attention, and listening to Dad.
And that training's paying off for Aaron Burmeister. He had a great race last year. I remember seeing when he got to the coast, he was in good shape, and he finished 5th. Can we expect another top 5, top 10 finish from him?
I think you have to. He's another guy that I think will benefit a little bit from a little shorter race. He always seems to be right there 700, 800 miles into the race, right? Even though he's headed home on that Arctic coast, which is his home and he knows so well, I think Aaron goes out too fast, too hard at times. And so a shorter race, it might benefit him. I think Aaron Burmeister could be right there in the final 150 miles.
And that's totally true. If you look at who pulls in the first 5 teams in cow tag on the traditional route and Uniclete, he is right there, and then has a little bit of trouble closing in those top 3 positions at the top of the pyramid. So I totally agree.
And let's wish him Hill. I think Aaron winning this race would be fantastic. I'm not sure this is the year he wants to win it. Of course, he wants to win it. But if he had to choose, it would be under that burled arch in Nome. He's going to try like the Dickens, though, to get it done on this route. And then he'd just say, look, I got to come back and win it again when I go to Nome.
It's always how it works. Cody Strafe at the start line, bib number 37. And I got to say, his kennel has the coolest artwork. When I drove in today, you saw that Squid Acres logo, and I was like, man, I want to get a T-shirt, a hat, or something, man. That thing looks cool.
Well, their truck is cool, but where they live is just spectacular out the Denali Highway. He and his wife, Paige, or his partner, Paige Strobney. It is spectacular. They got a lake on the property, and the Alaska Range, and caribou and moose, and just a great place to have dogs.
And he's a sled builder.
Yeah.
He builds sleds for a lot of these Iditarod mushers. He's got really good outdoor skills. I really like hanging out with Cody. He just loves the whole lifestyle. He told me before the race, he said, I'd really like to not be racing. I'd like to just take off and do like a 1,500-mile camping trip with the dogs.
Oh, wow.
So,
and he's just kind of getting underway. He's got 3 races under his belt. This is number 4, but he continues to get better and better each race. So that's definitely a positive for him.
Well, he'll run the young dogs out of their kennel. He's really, I don't know how many times he's run the Yukon Quest, but I think more in the Quest than the Iditarod, if I remember right.
Yes, he's been running the Quest the last 3 or 4 years. And he did say he is running the B team out of there.
Yeah. And he better be, because Paige got that team to a 7th place finish the last 2 years. So we're expecting Paige to get it done. She's yet to come.
Now coming to the line, bib 38, Lev Schwartz. He's from Willow, Alaska. No stranger to this race. Began in 2014, and he took 22nd place last year. And he's a fun one when you catch him on the trail to see how he's tinkered or what he's done, because he's an electrical engineer.
Yeah.
So the guy is so smart, and it's kind of like, it's always a surprise when you go up to him out there and it's like, what do you got this year? I know one year he had a special modifications to his headlight, but he's a fun one, and he's dedicated to the sport as well.
And he's quirky, right? So for TV people, he's a great guy to sit down and talk to, because he'll always tell you something that will just light up a television screen. Grew up in the Ukraine, interesting guy, highly educated, highly smart, and the joke I make every year, and yet all that intelligence, and here he is running the Iditarod.
But you've also said, Greg, in that if these people applied themselves to some other professions, they'd be millionaires.
They would, and he had his opportunity, and he blew it. But I like Lev. He's another one of those great characters out there that we get to enjoy some time. But a 22nd finish a year ago. So that's great. He was 41 back in 18 and 54 in 15. So who knows? Maybe he's got some genetics that are working, and he's got some lead dogs that can get it done. You never know. When you see those top 20 or near top 20 finishes, I start to wonder, okay, was that genetics or was it management? right? And so we'll know after this race, if he gets into the top 20 again, you know there's a combination of both things happening there. Experience that he's gaining, and he's got genetics now in his kennel that can help him compete.
And those engineers, they love to experiment, so who knows, maybe if he experiments in training, and that could pay off out on the trail, and loves to tinker. And I love his bio. It says tinkering, tools, and tattoos. Hopefully he's not doing any tattoos out there on the trail. Now making their way to the line is bib 39, Dakota Schlosser, out of Willow, Alaska, 22 years old. So diesel and heavy equipment mechanic for Knick Construction.
I see he's got quite a few mid-distance races under the belt, so that's always good.
And he's getting after it at a young age, 22 years old. I mean, you can really build a solid foundation, and you kind of keep referencing that, Bruce, is that foundation, those number of races as you kind of really build up that kennel and you get those puppies and kind of work towards a career in this sport.
And that's the key, raising those puppies, figuring out the genetics, and then having that bond with them from the minute they open their eyes. Because when it comes down to heart, you have to earn that. It's not just, they're not machines. There's a relationship there, which is really for all of us that raced or had sled dogs for a long time, that's really the intrigue, that bond, that genetics.
And that chemistry is something you'll see in the race, because if you got that right nucleus of dogs and the musher feeding off the dogs, you can just tell that they're having a fun time and they're going to make it to the finish because everybody's on the same page.
That's the big reward, that bond with dogs, really, for mushers. I mean, it's great to be out, this magnificent landscape we have, all of that, but it's that bond with dogs, that trust, that love. This race was started to save the sled dog. That should always be remembered.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time talking about 1925 and the serum run and the connections with COVID this year. That's not why this rate, we're not remembering 1925 and the serum run when the Iditarod runs. Joe Reddington started this race because he saw the sled dog disappearing from our native communities across the state. He wanted to make sure that their legacy remained in those places, and that's why he started the Iditarod.
Bib number 40, Dan Caduce. He won the Summit 300 earlier this year. That took place of the Yukon Quest due to things switching up because of the pandemic, but he won that race and he actually beat his wife, Jody Bailey. So he's off to a strong start this year.
Yeah, he is. They've dedicated their lifestyle to racing and raising sled dogs and the homesteader bush kind of lifestyle, and that was a good win for him. That was a tough trail. Lots of hills, lots of mountains to go over.
And another spectacular place to train dogs out there in Chattanooga. I love their property and their vistas and the valley that they get to run up with those dogs. What a spectacular place to live for both Dan and Jody. And we haven't seen Jody now in the Iditarod. I hope she's listening somewhere out there. We need you back, Jody Bailey. Another one with high intelligence, and the interviews that we always got out of Jody, she would test you. Like, you sit down and do an interview with you, and she would make you come up with a better question.
Interrogate you with questions.
Yeah, you got a better one than that. Come on.
Make you work for it.
Yes.
Actually, she's over there in the chute.
Oh, she is? Well, maybe she'll watch it on tape delay.
Maybe get her over here.
Yes.
But another interesting thing about him, too, he's Rookie of the Year back in 2010. Raced one more time, but this is his third Iditarod, so he's kind of been off and on with the race.
They've also been involved with the Yukon Quest and lots of other races. So just because they're not running the Iditarod doesn't mean the dogs haven't been experiencing racing themselves.
Next in the starting chute.
Exciting to see how he does this year. Obviously had some early success as he makes his way on the Iditarod Trail. And on the start line is Your Life, Seth Olsom, one of the 4 champions in this year's race. He has never finished worse than 7th, and he's the model of consistency year after year, Greg.
Should be pointed out that his worst finish of 7th was when he was a rookie. He's only done better than that since. And these are numbers like when you look at Dallas Seavey, you know, he did the same in his first 9 years. Those first 2 races, he actually was running his puppy team for his dad. So those finishes, I think, of 51st and 41st don't count. So Yor and Dallas when you look at top 10 finishes, I mean, it's almost a mirror. Now, Dallas has got 3 extra championships, but Yor is knocking on the door again. This is a guy that could be here first in a few days.
And Yor shared with us what keeps him motivated on the Iditarod Trail.
I'm as motivated as ever, I think. I'm still having a blast running dogs. I love training dogs. I love being out on trail, so I'm as excited as ever.
Non-stop dog gear.
You're always a fun musher to follow. Fantasy mushing actually growing, and I'll get a few people that will reach out to me and they'll be like, you know, who's a musher to watch? And you always got to tell them Yor, because this guy is just consistent and he's always going to finish strong.
I would say a lot like Allie, that we've never seen him down or angry.
Exactly.
It's like they'll say things like, that was a tough trail. That's it, you know? And then they smile. But nobody should count this guy out.
Again, another one of these people put on the planet, and he has found his sweet spot in life, in this existence that we call life. Your life with Olson has found his spot. Also recently got married this past summer. Their first baby expected late June, early July. So this could be a year to remember for Yor Olson.
You always love that push when you got things outside of mushing going for you as well. Just only seems to help it.
Well, the positivity of it, right? You got to be excited, and you got to be just excited about what's going to happen in his life soon. The dogs pick up on that.
And another musher both of you are very high on for good reason. Bib number 42, Paige Drobny.
2 finishes, 7-7 the last 2 times. So she's solidly in the top 10 now. And because she worked so hard at this, you can't help but improve. And I am really excited. That's why I put her on my top 5 to watch, just because of that improvement. I don't know if she's ready to win, but I think she could step up a few more positions here.
I think she's got dogs that could win.
Yep.
Right? Is Paige going to make the move and be aggressive enough?
To get that killer instinct, because when it comes between first, second, and third, you got to get in there and really grit it out.
And we were able to chat with her about the development of her kennel.
After running so many 1,000-mile races, I feel like maybe we have just honed in on the genetics and the kind of dog. You know, we're slow learners. We didn't handle for anyone else before. We just kind of tried to reinvent the wheel. And I think it just has taken a little bit of time to get there.
Paige getting ready to take off for another Iditarod, and high hopes for many, for her husband and her as well, this year on the Iditarod Trail.
I got this funny story. I was at their place last summer, and they're building a new place there, and on that spectacular piece of property I pull in, Cody's down there pushing things with heavy equipment. I go to the back of the house. Paige is up there putting windows in, and like, she's the real deal. Like, Paige Drobny is the real deal.
Well, stick with us. We're going to take a brief break from the action, but when we come back, we're going to wrap things up here at the start of Iditarod 49 at Deshka Landing.
In 2021, the Iditarod, the mushers, and their dogs need your support more than ever before. Your Iditarod Insider subscription is a great way to help ensure that this great race is run across the Alaskan wilderness each and every year. The Insider Nation is behind each of our human and canine athletes, so join us today. Subscribe to Insider Ultimate Plus for exclusive access to stream our past 12 documentaries. Your Insider Plus level support will include access to Insider Video on Demand, live streaming, and GPS tracking. If you've already renewed, you can upgrade by going to your account and purchasing the upgrade. Subscribe or upgrade at iditarod.com/insider.
Welcome back to our coverage of the last great race. And we're having fun. They look like they're having fun as well, rolling around in the snow, having a ball here at the start of the Iditarod at Deshka Landing. Larry Doherty, he's hoping he's going to have a ball out there on the Iditarod Trail. This is going to be year number 5 for him.
He usually does have fun. Larry's an upbeat guy and makes the most of his experience.
Good luck, Larry Doherty.
He's a doctor as well, and really just a go-getter. When you just look at his bio, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think he's a oncologist.
Born and raised in Alabama.
So again, smart guy, and here he is.
That'd be interesting. You know, you tell your patients, yeah, I got to take a break. I got to go run the Iditarod, but I'll be back. Don't worry. And a familiar name with the race, bib number 44, Jesse Holmes, getting ready to take on the Iditarod after a 9th place finish last year. Definitely a very competitive musher.
This is a guy that has bullseyes on his eyes. He wants to win this. He's like looking at the target all the time and studies this, lives this. Greg's been to his kennel. He's moved to a new place where he can train more easily. I don't think there's anything else in his life other than that focus of sled dogs.
And we actually talked to Jesse about training and all that open space.
We have the Denali Highway. It's 130 miles of remote highway that's not maintained in the winter. So we have this 130 miles of area to train on, and it varies all the time. There's a lot, this winter especially, we had such deep snow, wind, drifting, hardcore trail conditions right on the highway.
Good luck to
Jesse Holmes, a fun musher to watch, and that training paying dividends for him on the trail. And it's always fun. He's always one you got to keep your tabs on when you're watching a tractor at home.
Yeah, and the thing I want to know about Jesse Holmes, 7th as a rookie in 18, and then he jumped to 27th, and then he came back with a 9th place in 2020. Is Jesse going to be inconsistent, or was the 27th place in 2019 an anomaly? Is this truly a top 10 kennel and a top 10 musher? I think after this race, we'll know a lot more on the trajectory of Jesse Holmes and his career on the Iditarod Trail.
I really think it's a reflection of what you pointed out, Greg, of that sophomore year. Get a little overconfident, decide to push harder, and the push didn't work. It was that calmness of the first year that was the ticket.
The old sophomore slump.
And he's a TV star, of course, Life Below Zero. People watch that on Nat Geo. Interesting guy, Jesse Holmes.
Always a fun one to interview as well. Out there on the trail. Wishing the best of luck during this year's race. Now bib 45, Rick Casillo, Battle Dogs Kennel.
Yeah, Rick, one of my buddies. He loves the fish. He's been at this a long time now. He's got the Battle Dog operation out there where he uses his sled dogs to help wounded warriors battle through the Depression after war. And so he's had a great mission and a great story. And he's got to get up. Looks like 26th was his best finish in 2014, 27th in 2018. So now he's back into the race, and he's close to home as well. You know, lives in Talkeetna, so we'll see.
And that's something we've heard from mushers, as they said, the out and back. We can expect a faster race. We can expect these dogs to kind of pick up the pace as they come back because they're very familiar with the trail they've already gone down.
Yeah, and you know what normally happens in Iditarod when we say the trail will be good is it's bad, or if we say it's bad, it will be good. And they could come back and hit an epic storm in the Alaska range because they travel through that wide open tundra valleys. Anybody been to Denali National Park? It's that kind of wide open landscape. You put some wind and snow in there, it could totally change this race.
Plus, I saw pictures last night from a friend of ours out in Nikolai, John Runkle. The
number 45.
Run between Roan and Nikolai, there's hellacious overflow on some of the river in the areas that they've got to travel through. So you never know what's out there. That's the beauty of this. It's warming. The ice is going to melt. The snow's going to melt. Some of that water is going to be in places that it's not in right now, but tomorrow it could be there. We don't know what they're going to encounter.
And it was interesting, Allie said as well, every year, you know, you're typically going from Willow to Nome, and it never crosses your mind to take the Alaska range backwards. So they'll be encountering that for the first time, and it should be fun to see how they approach it. Now, Cindy Galley on the start line, returning to the race. Her last race was in 2019. And she loves the dogs, loves working with the dogs. She loves running across Alaska. It fills her soul.
And I think it really does. It's just being out in all that country. And I don't know how many more times Cindy will run, but any musher would tell you, you don't want your last race to be a scratch. That just doesn't set right, because you could always go back in your head and rerun those races and say, well, if I'd done this or I'd done that. And every musher does that. Where could I get 5 minutes, or what might I have done better? But she does love to just be out there and travel through Alaska.
And it says here, after retiring from the Iditarod 3 times, she's decided to run one more time. That's usually the case, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. It's tough when you get around it and you fall in the vortex, and it's even harder to get out of it when you're done.
And the other side of that is there will be mushers 2 nights from now that will do the, what am I out here again? I'm never doing this again.
Don't ever let me do this again.
Or they'll be at home watching the coverage and be like, wow, I wish I was there. You know, I should have gone back out.
By June, they'll be signed back up. There goes Cindy.
Good to see her.
Next in the chute, bib number 40.
We have our final musher. Bib number 40. And I spoke too soon, not quite our final musher, but Sean Underwood approaching the start line, and he had an eventful 2020 race, to say the least.
Yeah, he got 30 or 40 miles from the finish line with Matt Failer, and they were going through the dark there on the coast, and they ended up in some overflow and sea ice. And again, at night, I think they thought it was going to go on forever, and so they called for help, and then the sun came up, and I think that had they gone through it during the day, I think they would have made it.
Yeah.
I just think that, you know, that's a, and Bruce, you can talk about it, like, that would be unnerving in the dark to end up in overflow on sea ice.
Well, it is, because you don't know the condition of the ice below the water. And also, you got to remember how sleep deprived these guys can be. But I'm sure that was a major disappointment at sunrise.
And we were lucky enough to talk to Sean about that rookie race.
It's like an incredible couple of weeks. You learn a lot about yourself and about the dogs. And I mean, what I learned in those 2 weeks exceeds what I've learned in the last couple of years. It's just such so much growth happens. And yeah, I want to get back out there.
And this is a musher who knows how to surround himself with the right people. It takes Jeff King, and now he's working with Dallas, I understand. So surrounding himself with great mushers.
Yeah, last year he stepped in for Jeff King, who had a medical emergency literally the day before the race started. So Sean then jumped on his team and almost made it to Nome, and now he's working with Dallas Evie. He's got Dallas's, possibly some of Mitch's young dogs in there as well. I'm not really sure about that. But yeah, great mentorship for Sean Underwood.
Rookie in Iditarod.
Yeah, to be thrown into the Iditarod literally just a couple days before, because it was just a couple days before. You don't have the time to mentally get your head around that like most people do back in June. So.
Baptism by fire.
Well, there's a couple of ways of looking at that too, right? He didn't have much time, but he also didn't have much time to freak out about it.
All righty, bib 48, Victoria Hardwick out of Bethel, Alaska. This will be her second race. In 2019, she took 39th place, and she will be the final musher to leave the chute.
I love seeing these dog teams come out of Bethel and out in the villages. I mean, right now, I would say that Bethel area is producing some of the best sled dogs and mushers in the world. They're competitive. I'm glad to see her come out of there. They've done a great job out of the Kuskokwim Peninsula, Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, supporting dog mushing. And that's why this race was founded, as Greg was saying with Joe Reddington. He wanted to see that legacy of what the sled dogs did for the people settling Alaska stay alive, and just really enjoy what amazing animals these are. So I'm really glad to see more mushers coming from Bethel area.
And then you got to talk about the genetics, right? The genetics of the dogs that have evolved over these years, both through racing and before, that live out on that delta, Bruce.
Yeah. Mike Williams here, you know, when he was here, he really, I think, inspired a lot of the younger mushers from the Bethel area to get involved. And then Mike Williams Jr. and now all these guys like Richie and Pete. And so in a way, the Iditarod is reaching part of its mission, is to keep the spirit and the lifestyle of dog mushing alive. And these dogs have helped us from the beginning of time. And I think people need to realize this, that this race celebrates those sled dogs. We care about their food, we care about their training, we care about their every aspect of them, and it is to promote dog care, it is to promote the athleticism of these dogs and what they have given to us as people.
Wow, here we go.
And there's Victoria Hardwick on the trail,
Yes.
our final musher from the chute. She takes it on. Well, we're not going anywhere. We still got some things to talk about, so we're going to catch you guys after the break.
Hello, fans of the Iditarod Sled Dog Race. I'm Greg Heister. And I just wanted to take a moment, first of all, to say hello, but most importantly, to let you know that those of us here with the Iditarod Insider are very, very excited. We've got brand new state-of-the-art technology that is going to allow us to bring you more live images than ever before from places that we've never been before, but maybe most importantly, greater content. Interviews with mushers and checkers and race personnel and volunteers. We're going to bring all kinds of live information for you. It's important that you go to Iditarod.com and become a subscriber, because this insider has become a major portion of the financial foundation of this race, which means your support is crucial to perpetuating the purpose, which is to keep these dogs running across the landscapes of the great state of Alaska. Remember, that's why Joe Reddington Sr. and those in the early 1970s started this race. It's important that you get on board, become an insider, become directly responsible for keeping this last great race running. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. We hope to see you at Iditarod.com, and I certainly hope to see you out on the Iditarod Trail.
Welcome back to our coverage of the last great race, and it is underway. No more mushers that need to leave the start line, and it's great to see a race happen this year after so much speculation. It's out there, it's going on, and I'm excited to go catch them out there at the checkpoints.
And I guarantee you there's somebody out there right now realizing they just forgot something. At this moment, they're like, oh no, it's not here.
Well, we're going to check in with Tracy Sinclair, and hopefully if they forgot something, they're not stuck in a storm, but she's going to let us know what the weather looks like for the early part of this race.
Hey, it's great to see all the mushers out on the trail. They got great weather today, a lot of sunshine, but we do have this system. We talked about it earlier. That's going to be moving into western Alaska and western parts of the interior and here in South Central, probably not until late Monday night into Tuesday. So before we get there, let's talk about what we can expect in these first pretty much 24 hours. We are looking for mushers, of course, to end up in Squentina later on tonight. We're looking at clear skies, temperatures down to about 4 above for our overnight lows. Fairly mild, of course, mushers and the dogs are used to this, but by late in the day on Monday, we could see some of that snow starting to move in. We move into Rainy Pass. Again, looking at that snow coming through. It is coming in Monday night into Tuesday. We're looking for highs on Monday right into the mid-20s and lows by the evening hours back into single digits. So really not a bad start to the race, but we could see that snow coming through. Back to you guys.
Well, it's good to hear from Tracy, and that weather always playing a factor into this race. And another part of our trail crew, Sean McGuire, he caught up with all the mushers before they left on this year's trail. Sean, what do you got for us?
Hey Patrick, I've been talking to a lot of people who have headed out, as you guys have been talking about. They're out on the trail now, and they're on a trail that none of them have ever seen before. I mean, they know what it's like to get to Iditarod, but they don't know what it's like coming back, going backwards over the Alaska range. And I heard from a few few people that is going to present some challenges. You know, the trail is designed to go in one direction. Maybe it can be groomed, maybe the trail breakers can put it in to reduce some of those hazards to make sure that there is a smooth ride on the way back again. But we also got to think that this is something kind of like a wilderness trip for these guys. There isn't going to be the stops that they can make inside the checkpoints to recharge their phones, recharge their GPSs, to listen to the music, listen to the podcasts as they have been doing in recent years. It's kind of like a turn back in time, a couple of decades to what Iditarod used to be like, and that there's going to be a lot more camping, there's a lot more wilderness that these mushers are going to be seeing. And for anyone that's ever come down and seen an Iditarod start, there's a lot fewer people here, and that's kind of what's going to be a theme of the trail as well. I also caught up with Mitch Seavey, the three-time Iditarod champion, who isn't running this year, and he was with Dallas Seavey, of course, the four-time Iditarod champion, and he had fascinating things to be saying. He was telling me that Dallas is going to be running with some of his dogs. He's got eight Mitch Seavey dogs and 6 Dallas Seavey dogs. They're going to be running in a team together, and that's going to be a fascinating partnership to see if Dallas Seavey can come back after a few years out and come back and possibly win his 5th Iditarod. So that's going to be fascinating for all of us on the trail. I can't wait to see what happens, and looking forward to being out there with you, Patrick.
It's an exciting time of year for sure, Sean. And we're going to take one final rate before we take a final look at this race. So stick with us.
Hello, fans of the Iditarod Sled Dog Race. I'm Greg Heister. And I just wanted to take a moment, first of all, to say hello, but most importantly, to let you know that those of us here with the Iditarod Insider are very, very excited. We've got brand new state-of-the-art technology that is going to allow us to bring you more live images than ever before from places that we've never been before, but maybe most importantly, greater content. Interviews with mushers and checkers and race personnel and volunteers. We're going to bring all kinds of live information for you. It's important that you go to Iditarod.com and become a subscriber, because this insider has become a major portion of the financial foundation of this race, which means your support is crucial to perpetuating the purpose, which is to keep these dogs running across the landscapes of the great state of Alaska. Remember, that's why Joe Reddington Sr. and those in the early 1970s started this race. It's important that you get on board, become an insider, become directly responsible for keeping this last great race running. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. We hope to see you at Iditarod.com, and I certainly hope to see you out on the Iditarod Trail.
"46 mushers are on the trail taking on the Iditarod. We're going to have a champion. I don't know how quick it's going to be, but from what you guys tell me, you said it's going to be a fast race, and you're expecting an exciting finish. Can I quote you on that, Greg?
Yeah, oh no, I'm hopeful of that. It's going to be fast because it's roughly 100 miles shorter or so. If we don't get a major dump of snow, remember the teams have just gone over the trail, laid down a good track, so it should be faster on the way back, unless we get a dump of snow, which is possible. But then it's you know, the final 150 miles, gravity is aiding the teams going downhill. So it could be faster. It'll be Monday sometime instead of Tuesday. That's our prediction. You agree, Bruce?
I do, and for those exact reasons. But what I hope for in that is that the things happen that some mushers like Allie like adversity.
Yes.
I hope they get out there by the Buffalo tunnels and head to Nikolai and there's overflow. I hope at some point, like on the flats going into Iditarod, there's wind, because that's why a lot of the mushers are out there. If they wanted to take it easy, they'd be sitting at home watching this on TV. These guys want this stuff. But I agree. I think we're going to see possibly a day chopped off of this. And it makes sense. It's 100 miles shorter.
And you mentioned Allie. It would be amazing to see her in the mix coming into these final days. Such an icon of the race, and just so many fans would love to see that.
I'd be one of them. I certainly would be one of them. I mean, she's been so great to this race. She's been such a big part of it. She's been right there 3 times a second-place finisher. I always thought that, you know, Allie embodied what it was to be a long-distance musher, both from a lifestyle perspective and also as a racer, and what she meant to this trail and the people in all of these communities. I think it would be a tremendous story. We don't always get those stories. So we'll celebrate her regardless of what happens out there. We may not get a blizzard on the Bering Sea coast this year, but historically on this trail, some of the greatest blizzards in its history have happened in Rainy Pass.
Yeah.
Right? So we have our fingers crossed for that, because that's great television. And that's what the three of us are out seeking, is great television. So keep your fingers crossed for that.
And Allie would be one of the best to get through
She'd
that.
love it.
And I will say, since this is Allie's last race, I think it's worth spending a little time speaking about it, is that she has probably the hugest fan base of any musher here. But I guarantee you, Allie's #1 fan is sitting right next to you right there.
Yeah. She was great. She is great. Coming up after this, we're going to go to like a 15-minute preview piece, and it's really about adaptation, which is the essence of what a long-distance musher is, and it's what the race has had to do this year because we're living under this umbrella called COVID-19. And so kudos to the race organizers, kudos to these mushers for getting it done, kudos to you and my partner over there, Bruce Lee, after all these years. Here we go for a 49th time. We're going out to crown an Iditarod champion.
This is going to be unbelievable, and I had a great time spending with you guys. Hopefully you guys at home also enjoyed it, and I'm excited to get out on the trail. I don't know where you guys are going, but I'm headed to McGrath, and I can't wait to see the mushers when they get there, so make sure to follow along. Iditarod Insider, Alaska's news source. It's been great, and have a good one.
I can't see a negative about it. You know, the head-on passing will only serve to perk them up. You know, come around the corner, surprise.
I mean, I think we're blessed to be able to have a race because there's a very good chance this could have not happened.
You go through it once and then the whole time thinking, I gotta go do that again. Maybe the team will be a little tired, maybe a little slower, a little bit more manageable.
Oh, it's gonna be totally different. Yeah. I mean, I think every year has its own challenges.
I'm going to be thinking about how lucky I am to be here and how glad I am for all the people that have helped me get to where we are today.